Hi guys, tonight we drift quietly into the night shift of a medieval castle. The sun is sinking, the air is turning cold, it feels like ice against your cheeks. The wind is coming off the fields like a cold river, finding every gap in your clothes. You can hear the dry grass snapping under your boots. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you want to let me know where you are listening from, and what time it is where you are. I always love seeing those little snapshots of the world. Now dim the lights and let the story begin. You are standing in front of a very big building. It is a castle made of heavy grey stone. The walls are so tall that you have to tilt your head back to see the top. The sky above is turning a deep, dark blue. The last bit of orange light is fading away behind the trees. You feel the weight of your cloak on your shoulders. It is made of thick, scratchy wool. It is the colour of old earth. You pull it tight around your neck. The wind is starting to bite. It is a sharp winter wind. It travels across the flat fields and hits the stone walls with a low moan. You take a step toward the entrance. Your leather boots make a crunching sound on the small rocks and dirt. In front of you is a giant wooden door. It is held together with thick strips of black iron. Next to the door, a man is standing. He is a guard. He is wearing a helmet that hides his face. In his hand, he holds a long piece of wood with a flame at the end. This is a torch. The flame is bright orange and yellow. It dances in the wind. The fire makes a soft popping sound. You can smell the smoke. It smells like pine wood and something thick, like oil. This is pitch. People used pitch to keep the torches burning for a long time. The guard nods at you. He does not say a word. He reaches for a heavy iron handle. With a loud creak, the door begins to open. As you walk inside, the air changes. Outside, the world felt wide and empty. Inside the castle walls, the air feels heavy. It feels old. You are in a long tunnel of stone. This is the gatehouse. Above your head, you see a heavy iron gate with sharp points at the bottom. This is a portcullis. It is very heavy. It takes many men to move it with big chains. If there was trouble, the guards would let it drop. It would hit the ground with a sound like thunder. But tonight it stays up. It hangs there like a row of giant iron teeth. You walk past it. Your footsteps sound different here. The stone floor makes every step sound loud. Tap, tap, tap. The sound bounces off the walls and follows you. You come out into a big open space. This is the courtyard. During the day, this place is very busy. There would be horses moving. There would be people shouting and chickens running under your feet. But now it is getting quiet. The daytime is over. This is a simple fact of life in a castle. Once the sun goes down, the work stops. Light is very expensive. It is hard to make candles. It is hard to keep torches burning. Without a light in your hand, you cannot see your own feet. So most people go to sleep very early. They follow the sun. When the sun goes to bed, the castle goes to bed too. You look around the courtyard. The shadows are long and black. They look like giant fingers reaching across the ground. You see a small light in a window high up in a tower. It is a tiny yellow dot. It might be a candle made of beeswax. Those are the best candles. They smell sweet like honey. Only the rich people have those. Most people use candles made of fat. Those candles are called tallow candles. They are made from the fat of cows or sheep. They do not smell good. They make a lot of black smoke. You can smell a bit of that smoke now. It hangs in the cold air. The ground in the courtyard is covered in straw and mud. You walk carefully. You do not want to slip. You see a large wooden tub near a wall. This is a water trough for the horses. The water is very still. It looks like a black mirror. You see the reflection of a star in the water. For a moment, everything is very still. The wind has stopped blowing for a second. The only sound is your own breathing. You see the white mist of your breath in the cold air. It looks like little clouds floating away. You feel the cold seeping through your boots. The stone underneath the mud is freezing. Castles are not warm places. They are built to be strong. They are built to keep enemies out. They are not built to keep people cozy. You see a tall tower in the corner. It is made of very thick blocks of stone. Some blocks are as big as a small table. You wonder how people moved them so high up. The walls are often 3 or 4 meters thick. This keeps the castle safe from big rocks thrown by enemies. But it also means the walls stay cold all year long. In the winter, the stone feels like ice. In the summer, it stays cool. At night, the stone breathes out the cold it has been holding. You can feel it on your skin. It is a damp kind of cold. It makes your bones feel heavy. You walk toward the main building. This is the heart of the castle. There is a set of stone steps leading up to a door. The steps are worn down in the middle. Thousands of feet have walked here over hundreds of years. You put your hand on the stone wall to help you climb. The stone is rough. It feels gritty. You can feel the tiny bits of sand and dirt. You reach the top of the steps and look back at the courtyard. It is almost completely dark now. The guard with the torch is gone. The only light comes from the moon. The moon is white and bright. It makes the stone look silver. You turn and push open the door. It is heavy, but it moves smoothly. Inside, the air is a little warmer. You can smell wood smoke and old food. You can smell the scent of many people living close together. It is not a bad smell, but it is very strong. It is the smell of a place that is always full of life. You see a large room ahead of you. This is the Great Hall. At night, it looks very different than it does during the day. The big tables are pushed to the walls. The floor is covered in fresh green plants called rushes. People put them on the floor to keep it clean and to make the room smell better. You can hear the rushes crunching as you walk. You find a small corner near a pillar. The pillar is made of wood. It is thick and round. It feels solid. You sit down on a wooden bench. It is hard and cold. You pull your cloak over your knees. You watch a small fire in the middle of the room. It is not a big fire. It's just a few logs turning into red coals. The heat does not reach you here, but looking at the red light makes you feel a little better. This is the start of your night. The world is asleep, but the castle is still awake in its own quiet way. You are the watchman. You are here to see what happens when the lights go out. You listen to the silence. It is not a true silence. You hear the building settling. You hear the wind outside the thick walls. You are safe inside. The stone protects you. For a moment, you just sit there. You let your eyes get used to the dark. Journey into the night has just begun. You see a cresset on the wall. A cresset in a mall. A cresset is a metal basket. It is shaped like a bowl with holes in it. Inside the basket, there are hot coals. They give off a soft, red glow. It is not enough light to read a book, but it is enough to see the shapes of the room. You watch the smoke from the cresset rise up. It curls like a snake toward the high ceiling. There are no chimneys here. The smoke just finds its way out through small holes in the roof. This keeps the air a bit hazy. It makes the room feel like it is filled with a thin fog. Your eyes sting just a little bit from the smoke. You blink and take a deep breath. The air is old and thin. You lean your head back against the wooden pillar. You feel the history of this place in the very air you breathe. The night is long. The stone is cold. But you are here, watching over the past. You stand up from the hard wooden bench. Your legs feel a bit stiff from the cold. You need to find where you will rest your head tonight. In a medieval castle, you do not just pick any room you like. Where you sleep depends on who you are and what your job is. This is a simple fact of life in this old building. Your place in the world is shown by where you lie down when the sun goes away. If you are a very important person, like a lord or a lady, you have a room high up in the tower. But for most of the people here, sleep happens in shared spaces. It is a very busy, crowded world, even at night. You walk across the great hall. The rushes on the floor make a soft, shushing sound under your boots. These rushes are long, green plants that people gather from the riverbanks. They spread them thick on the stone floor to act like a carpet. It helps keep the floor warm, and it also catches bits of food or dirt. Sometimes people mix in dried herbs like lavender or meadowsweet. When you step on them, they release a faint, sweet smell. It reminds you of a summer field, even though the air in here is freezing. You see a small wooden bowl left on a long table. Inside is a little bit of cold pottage. Pottage is a thick soup made of peas, beans, and maybe a little bit of onion. It was the main meal for almost everyone in the castle. The bowl is carved from a single piece of dark wood. It feels smooth and oily in your hand. You look around the hall and see that you are not alone. Other people are starting to find their spots. There is no such thing as a private bedroom for most of the workers. This is how it was for hundreds of years. People lived and slept together in the same big rooms. It helped keep them warm, and it kept them safe. You see a group of young men who work in the stables. They are pulling long bags made of heavy cloth out from under the benches. These are pallets. A pallet is a very simple bed. It is just a big sack stuffed with straw or dried grass. It is not very soft, and the straw pokes through the cloth, but it keeps you off the cold stone floor. You follow a narrow hallway away from the hall. The walls here are closer together. The air feels even colder because there is no fire nearby. You pass a small room where the light of a single candle is flickering. Inside, you see a man sitting on a stool. He is a clerk, a man who knows how to read and write. He is busy tidying up his tall desk. He has a small knife in his hand to sharpen his pens, which are made from the feathers of geese. He looks tired. Even he does not have a big bed. He will probably sleep on a small cot in the corner of his office. Everyone stays close to their work. The cook sleeps near the kitchen. The guards sleep near the doors. The castle is like a giant machine that never truly stops, even when it is dark. You find the spot that has been set aside for you. It is in a small corner under a stone arch. The arch is beautiful, carved with shapes of leaves and vines. But the stone feels like ice when your shoulder brushes against it. You see your pallet waiting for you. It is thin and lumpy. Next to it is a small wooden chest. This is where you keep your things. You do not have much. Maybe a spare shirt made of linen and a small wooden cross. Most people in this time only own the clothes they are wearing. You sit down on your straw bed. It makes a loud, dry, crunching sound. The straw is fresh, which is good. Old straw can get damp and smelly. Fresh straw smells like the autumn harvest. It is a dusty, sunshine smell that feels strange in this dark, damp place. You take off your heavy boots. The air hits your feet and you shiver. You quickly tuck your feet under your wool cloak. You do not have a blanket like the ones we have today. You use your cloak for everything. It is your coat during the day and your blanket at night. It is thick and heavy. It smells like wet sheep and wood smoke. It is a smell you get used to very quickly. You lie back on the pallet. You can feel every lump of straw against your spine. You have to move around a bit to find a way to be comfortable. You pull the edge of the cloak up to your chin. For a moment, you just lie there and look up at the ceiling. You cannot see much. The shadows are thick and black. You realize how big this building truly is. There are hundreds of people sleeping inside these walls right now. You can hear them. Far away, someone is snoring. It is a low, rhythmic sound that echoes down the hallway. You hear the soft murmur of people talking in the next room. They are speaking in low voices, probably telling stories or planning for tomorrow. In a castle, you are never truly in total silence. There is always the sound of other people breathing or moving in their sleep. You turn on your side and face the stone wall. The wall is very thick. You know that on the other side, the night is dark and cold. But inside here, you feel a little bit of safety. You are surrounded by stone that has stood for a long time. It has seen many people come and go. It has heard many secrets. You put your hand against the stone. It is rough and bumpy. You find a small crack in the rock and run your finger along it. The stone feels ancient. It does not care about the cold or the wind. It just stays there, holding up the roof. You close your eyes and listen to the heart of the castle. It is a slow, steady heart. You hear the wind again whistling through a small hole in the wall. It sounds like a flute playing a very sad song. Then, for a minute, everything goes quiet. It is a deep, heavy silence. In this silence, you can almost feel the weight of the tower above you. You are tucked away in a tiny corner of a giant world. You are just one person in a place built for kings and queens. But right now, in the dark, everyone is the same. Everyone is just looking for a bit of warmth and a place to rest their head. You feel the straw settling under your weight. The crunching stops. You find a soft spot for your head. You don't have a pillow, so you fold up your spare shirt and put it under your neck. It is not much, but it helps. You take a long, deep breath. The air is cold in your nose, but it feels fresh. You are starting to feel a little bit of warmth under your cloak. Your body is heating up the small space around you. You feel your muscles start to let go of the day's work. The wood cutting, the water carrying, the walking, all of it is over for now. You have found your spot. You are part of the castle's night shift now. You are tucked into the stone, waiting for the long hours to pass. You are safe. You are tired. You are ready to let the night take over. You are lying down now on your bed of straw. It is a very simple thing. As you move your arms, you hear a loud, dry sound. Crinkle, crunch, snap. It is the sound of hundreds of dried stalks of wheat or rye rubbing together. This is your mattress. In the castle, this is called a pallet. It is just a large bag made of very thick, rough cloth. Inside, it is stuffed full of the yellow straw that was gathered from the fields during the autumn harvest. The straw is packed tight, but it is not smooth. It is full of lumps and bumps that you can feel through your thin linen shirt. You try to get comfortable. You move your hips to the left, but a sharp bit of straw pokes you through the cloth. It feels like a tiny needle. You shift to the right, and the straw makes a loud noise that seems very bright in the quiet room. You wonder if the people sleeping near you can hear it. You stay very still for a moment, waiting for the bed to settle. The straw under your back slowly flattens out. It starts to hold the shape of your body. It is not like a soft bed in a modern house. It is firm and a bit prickly, but after a long day of standing on hard stone, even this lumpy bag feels like a gift. A simple fact about life in a castle is that people took their beds very seriously. Even if you were not rich, you tried to keep your straw clean. If the straw stayed in the bag too long, it would get damp from the moisture in the air. Damp straw starts to smell sour, like old rubbish. It can also get tiny bugs inside it. So every few weeks the bag is emptied out. The old broken straw is taken away to be used in the stables for the horses. Then fresh golden straw is brought in. You can smell that freshness now. It smells like dry grass and dust. It is the smell of the sun-drenched fields brought inside these dark grey walls. It is a clean, earthy scent that helps you feel a little more at peace. You reach down and touch the cloth of the pallet. It is made of hemp or coarse flax. It is very strong, but it is not soft. It feels like a heavy sack used for carrying grain. Your fingers trace the thick stitches along the side. Someone sat by a small candle and sewed this bag by hand. Every stitch was made with a bone needle and strong thread. You think about how much work goes into everything in this world. Nothing is made by a machine. Everything you touch was made by a person's hands. This makes you feel a connection to the people around you. You are all part of the same story. You do not have a pillow. Instead, you have a bolster. This is a long round roll of fabric stuffed with firmer straw or even bits of old wool. You place it under your neck. It is very hard, but it keeps your head up off the ground. You also have a small bundle of dried lavender tucked into the corner of the bag. This is a microhistory detail that many people forget. Medieval people loved strong-smelling herbs. They used them to hide the smells of smoke and unwashed wool. As you put your head down, you can smell the faint purple scent of the lavender. It is very light, but it makes you think of a garden in the summer. It makes the cold stone room feel a little less lonely. You pull your wool cloak over you. It is your only blanket. The wool is very thick and heavy. When you pull it up to your chin, it feels like a heavy hand pressing down on you. This weight is actually very nice. It makes you feel safe, like you are in a small cave. The wool is scratchy against your skin, but it is very warm. It traps the heat coming off your body. Slowly, the air under the cloak starts to feel cozy. You can feel your toes starting to warm up. They were like ice cubes just a few minutes ago. Now they are starting to feel soft and relaxed again. The room is very dark, but your eyes are starting to see better. You can see the shapes of the other pallets on the floor. They look like big, sleeping animals in the shadows. You hear someone move their arm, and their straw bed makes that same crunching sound. Crackle. It is a familiar sound. It is the sound of a medieval night. For hundreds of years, this was the sound people heard before they fell asleep. It is a steady, natural noise. It is not like the humming of a machine or the sound of a car. It is just the sound of the earth. You lie very still and listen to the silence of the castle. The silence is deep, but it is not empty. In this moment of quiet, you hear the small things. You hear a tiny drop of water falling somewhere far away. Drip. Plip. It hits a stone floor with a clear, bell-like sound. You hear the wood of the roof beams groan. The wood is very old and very heavy. As the night gets colder, the wood moves just a tiny bit. It makes a low, creaking sound, like an old man settling into a chair. These sounds tell you that the castle is alive. It is a giant stone beast that breathes and moves in the dark. You feel a tiny draft of wind. It sneaks under the edge of your cloak. It feels like a cold finger touching your ribs. You quickly tuck the wool tighter around your body. You realize that you have to be clever to stay warm here. You have to learn how to wrap yourself up just right. You learn to tuck your feet in and pull your knees up toward your chest. This helps keep your body heat in one place. You become like a small ball of warmth in the middle of a big freezing room. You think about the straw under you again. It is such a simple thing, but it is so important. Without this straw, you would be lying on the bare stone. The stone would steal all your heat in just a few minutes. The straw acts like a shield. It holds a layer of air between you and the cold ground. This air gets warm, and that is what keeps you alive on a winter night. You feel a sense of honor for these simple things. The grass, the wool, the stone. They are the things that protect you. You close your eyes and let your mind drift. You imagine the field where this straw grew. You can see the tall green stalks waving in the wind under a bright blue sky. You can hear the sound of the scythes, the long curved blades cutting through the grain. You can feel the warmth of the sun on your back. It is strange to think that all that sunshine is now trapped inside this dry straw, keeping you warm in the dark. It is a nice thought to have as you fall towards sleep. You feel your breathing get slower and deeper. The prickles of the straw do not bother you as much now. Your body is getting used to the lumpy bed. The lavender smell is still there, soft and sweet. The heavy wool cloak feels like a hug. You are tucked away in your little corner, safe from the wind and the dark. The castle is quiet. The fire is low. The straw is warm. You let out a long sigh and let your head sink into the hard bolster. You are ready to let the night carry you away. You are part of the quiet, sleeping world of the past. You lie very still, but you can feel it. It is not just the air that is cold. It is the stone. You are surrounded by millions of heavy grey blocks. These stones are the bones of the castle. They were pulled from deep inside the earth and piled up high to make these towers. During the day, when the sun is out, you might think the stone is just a wall. But at night, you learn the truth. The stone is like a giant sponge. It does not soak up water. It soaks up the cold. It holds onto the winter chill and never lets it go. Even if you built a big fire in the middle of the room, the stone walls would still feel like ice. You reach out your hand from under your warm wool cloak. You move slowly because the air outside your bed feels like jumping into a cold river. You stretch your fingers until they touch the wall next to your pallet. The stone is rough and bumpy. It feels biting. It is a deep, heavy cold that seems to go right through your skin and into your bones. It is not a surface cold. It is a cold that has been there for 100 years. You pull your hand back quickly and tuck it under your chin to warm it up. A simple fact about these big buildings is that the walls were built for one thing: strength. Most castle walls are at least 3 meters thick. Some are even thicker than that. The people who built them did not care about keeping the rooms cozy. They wanted to make sure that if an enemy hit the wall with a giant rock, the wall would not break. But this thickness means that the sun can never warm the stone all the way through. The inside of the wall is always freezing. At night, that freezing heart of the stone starts to breathe out. It pushes the cold air into the room where you are trying to sleep. You look at the wall in the dim light. It is not just plain grey rock. You see that it's been painted with something white. This is a microhistory detail that is very important. It is called lime wash. People made it by crushing up special white stones and mixing them with water. They painted it on the walls to make the rooms look brighter. Without it, the castle would be very dark and gloomy. The white lime wash catches the tiny bit of moonlight coming through the high window. It makes the wall look like it is made of frozen mist. But even this pretty white paint cannot hide the chill. You listen to the sound of the room. In this moment of deep silence, you realize that the stone has its own voice. It doesn't speak with words. It speaks with tiny sounds. You hear a soft crack from high above. It is the sound of the stone settling under its own weight. It is so heavy that it is always pressing down, down into the ground. You hear the wind outside too. It is hitting the other side of that 3-meter wall. Out there, the wind is wild and loud. It is screaming across the battlements. But in here behind the thick stone, the wind is just a low hum. The stone protects you from the noise, but it cannot protect you from the temperature. You think about how the stone feels in different seasons. In the middle of summer, when the fields are hot and the sun is burning, people love these walls. They come inside to feel the cool air. The castle feels like a cool cellar where you might keep milk or butter. But in the winter, the stone is your enemy. It steals the heat from your body. If you were to lean your back against the wall for too long, you would start to shiver. You have to learn to stay in the middle of the room, away from the edges where the stone breathes its icy breath. You look up at the window. It is very high up and very narrow. It is called an arrow slit. It is shaped like a thin cross. It was made so that a man with a bow could shoot out at enemies without being hit himself. But because it is just a hole in the stone, it lets the night air in. There is no glass in this window. Glass is very rare and very expensive. Most people in the castle have never even touched a piece of glass. Instead, There might be a piece of thin horn or just a wooden shutter. Tonight the shutter is closed, but you can still hear the air whistling through the tiny gaps in the stone around it. You pull your knees up closer to your chest. You are trying to make yourself as small as possible. The smaller you are, the easier it is to keep your heat inside your cloak. You feel the straw pallet under you. It is your only shield against the floor. The floor is made of the same heavy stone as the walls. If you were lying on the bare rock, the cold would pull the life right out of you. You are thankful for the dry grass and the thick fabric. They are like a little island of warmth in a sea of grey ice. You close your eyes and try to imagine the men who built this wall. You see them in your mind, lifting the heavy blocks with ropes and wooden cranes. You see them mixing the mortar, the sticky grey glue, made of lime and sand to hold the stones together. They worked in the rain and the sun to build this giant protector. They wanted to build something that would last forever, and they did. These walls will be here long after you are gone. They do not care about the people sleeping inside. They just stand there, tall and quiet and cold. You feel a little bit of moisture on the air. Because the stone is so cold, the dampness in the air turns into tiny drops of water on the wall. It is called sweating. The walls look like they are crying. This dampness makes the air feel even colder. It makes your wool cloak feel heavy and a bit limp. You tuck the edges of the cloak under your body. You want to make sure no cold air can get in. You are like a little bird in a nest, tucked away from the world of ice. The room is very still now. You hear the breathing of the person sleeping on the next pallet. Their breath makes a tiny puff of mist in the air, just like yours. Even though you are in a massive building made of thousands of tons of rock, the most important thing is that small bit of warm air you are breathing. You focus on that warmth. You feel it in your lungs. You feel it under your chin. The stone is big and strong and freezing, but you are warm and alive. You let your head sink back into your bolster. You are getting used to the deep chill of the castle. You are learning how to live with the stone. You let your eyes stay shut, and you let the heavy, quiet cold of the walls wrap around you like a dark dream. You are safe behind the grey blocks. The castle is watching over you, even if its heart is made of ice. You turn your head to the side. Your eyes are drawn to the middle of the room. There, in a big stone hearth, the fire is slowly changing. Earlier in the evening it was a bright, roaring thing. The flames were tall and orange, dancing and making a lot of noise. But now, the time for big fires is over. The castle is settling into the deep night. The logs have burned down into glowing chunks of wood. They look like bright red jewels sitting in a bed of soft grey ash. You watch them from your straw pallet. This is the last light you will see for a long time. A simple fact about life in a castle is that fires were very important, but they were also a bit scary. Everything in the room, the straw on the floor, the wooden beams in the ceiling, and your own bed can catch fire very easily. Because of this, the people in the castle have a very strict rule. They do not leave a big fire burning while they sleep. It is too dangerous. If a spark jumped out of the hearth and landed on the dry rushes on the floor, the whole building could be in trouble. So before the master of the house goes to sleep, the fire must be banked. This means the hot coals are pushed together and covered with ash. This keeps them warm until the morning, but it stops the flames from growing. You see a man moving quietly near the hearth. He is the night watchman for the fire. He is holding a large metal tool that looks like a flat shovel. He uses it to move the red coals. He is very careful. He doesn't want to make a loud noise and wake the people sleeping on the floor. He reaches for a special object sitting on the stone ledge. This is a microhistory detail that tells us how people kept their homes safe. It is a large metal cover shaped like a big bowl or a bell. It has small holes in the sides to let a little bit of air in. This tool is called a curfew. The name comes from old words that mean cover the fire. He places the curfew over the glowing coals. Now, the bright red light is hidden. Only tiny dots of orange shine through the holes in the metal. The room suddenly feels much darker. The big shadows that were jumping on the walls are gone. Now there is only a soft, dim glow. It is the color of a sunset that is almost finished. You lie there and watch the light change on the ceiling. The room is so quiet now that you can hear the fire breathing. It makes a tiny hissing sound like a secret being whispered. Sess hiss. A small piece of wood snaps deep inside the ash. Pop. It is a cozy sound, but it also reminds you that the warmth is leaving the room. As the fire gets smaller, the cold from the stone wall starts to move in. You can almost see the darkness filling up the corners of the great hall. It is like a dark tide coming in from the sea. You watch the shadows that are left. Without the bright flames, the shadows look different. They are long and thin. They stretch up the pillars toward the high roof. In the dim light, the carvings on the wood look like faces watching over you. You see the shape of a lion's head on a beam. You see the shapes of leaves and flowers. When the light flickers, the carvings look like they're moving. It is easy to see why people in the past believed in spirits or ghosts. The world at night is full of shapes that your mind tries to turn into something real, but you are not afraid. You know it is just the wood and the last bit of light playing a game. You feel your eyes getting very heavy. Watching a dying fire is a very relaxing thing. The way the red light pulses, getting a little brighter and then a little dimmer, is like a slow heartbeat. It matches your own breathing. You feel your muscles getting soft. The lumpy straw bed doesn't feel so hard anymore. The scratchy wool of your cloak feels like a warm hug. You are sinking deeper into the pallet. The fire watchman moves away. You hear his soft footsteps on the rushes. He is going to check the other rooms. Now, you are truly alone with the darkness. You look at the cresset on the wall again, the metal basket with the coals. The light there is almost gone too. The red is turning to black. You realize that soon you will not be able to see your own hand in front of your face. In our modern world, we always have a little bit of light from a street lamp or a clock, but here the dark is total. It is thick and heavy, like a velvet cloth. You think about the wood that is burning. It is probably oak or ash wood. The men who work in the forest spent all summer cutting the trees and stacking the logs to dry. If the wood is wet, it hisses and makes a lot of bitter smoke. But this wood is dry. It gives off a sweet, smoky scent that reminds you of a forest in the autumn. It is a smell that means home and safety to the people who live here. As long as there is a scent of smoke, you know the fire is still there, even if you cannot see the flames. You take one last look at the hearth. A tiny spark escapes from under the curfew. It floats up into the air, a tiny orange star. It drifts for a second and then vanishes into the dark. It is like a little light going out in a vast, black sky. You feel a sense of peace. The day's work is done. The fire is safe. The castle is quiet. You close your eyes. The red glow behind your eyelids slowly fades away. You are ready for the darkness. You are ready to let the night take you into its arms. You listen to the last, soft hiss of the embers. The warmth is a memory now, but it is a good memory. You pull the cloak over your shoulder one last time and let your mind go quiet. The last light is gone, and the long watch of the night has truly begun. You lie in the dark, and you hear it. It is a soft whistling sound. It is not the wind outside. It is the wind inside. It is the wind inside. In a medieval castle, the air is always moving. Even when the heavy wooden doors are closed and the iron bars are in place, the night air finds its way in. It crawls through the tiny cracks in the stone. It slips under the doors. It travels down the long cold hallways like a ghost. This moving air is called a draught. It is the enemy of your sleep. If a draught finds your bed, it will steal all the warmth you have worked so hard to gather under your wool cloak. A simple fact about life in a castle is that people spent a lot of time trying to stop the wind. They did not have glass windows like we do today. They did not have tight-fitting doors, so they used fabric to build walls inside the stone walls. You look up and see the shapes of heavy curtains hanging from the ceiling. These are not thin, pretty curtains. They are made of very thick, heavy wool. They are dyed in deep colors like dark red or forest green. These curtains are hung around the beds of the important people to create a room inside a room. The thick fabric stops the drafts and keeps the warm air trapped close to the person sleeping. You do not have a bed with curtains, but you have found a clever way to stay warm. You have pushed your straw pallet close to a large piece of fabric hanging on the wall. This is a microhistory detail that many people see in museums today. It is a tapestry. A tapestry is a giant picture woven out of colored wool. This one shows a forest with tall green trees and a tiny white deer hiding in the bushes. To us, it looks like art. To the people in the castle, it is insulation. The thick wall hanging against the cold stone acts like a blanket for the wall. It stops the stone from breathing its ice-cold breath directly onto you. Without these tapestries, the castle would be much harder to live in. You reach out and touch the edge of the tapestry. It feels heavy and a bit fussy. It smells like old dust and damp wool. It is not perfectly clean, but it is very thick. You can feel that the stone behind it is freezing, but the fabric itself is just a little bit warmer. You pull your pallet a few inches closer until the wool of the tapestry is touching your shoulder. Immediately you feel better. It is like having a second wall made of cloth. You listen to the sounds of the fabric. In this moment of stillness, you hear the tapestry move. The draft behind it makes the heavy wool ripple just a tiny bit. It makes a soft thump sound against the stone. It is a very quiet sound, like someone breathing far away. You realize that the whole room is filled with moving fabric. There are curtains over the doors. There are hangings over the windows. Every time the wind blows outside, the fabrics in the room shiver. It makes the great hall feel like it is alive, with soft cloth walls that move and sway in the dark. You pull your cloak tighter around your neck. You have learned the best way to fight a draft is to tuck yourself in perfectly. You become an expert at finding the gaps. You tuck the wool under your feet. You pull the edge under your hips. You make sure the fabric is tight against your back. You are like a caterpillar in a cocoon. If you leave even a tiny hole, the cold air will find it. It will feel like a stream of ice water running down your spine. But when you are tucked in right, you feel a wonderful sense of victory. You have made a little world of warmth that the drafts cannot reach. You think about the weavers who made these curtains and tapestries. They were mostly women, sitting at large wooden frames called looms. They worked for months, sometimes years, to make just one piece of fabric. They pushed the wool threads through with their fingers, making sure every row was tight and strong. They were not just making pictures, they were making shields against the winter. Every thread in the tapestry next to you was put there to keep someone warm. It makes you feel respected, knowing how much work went into your comfort. The room is very dark now, but you can still see the faint outline of a heavy curtain over the main door of the hall. It is a giant piece of dark wool. It hangs from a thick iron rod. When someone opens the door, the curtain catches the rush of cold air before it can blow across the room. It is a simple tool, but it works very well. You see it move slightly as the wind pushes against the door outside. The fabric holds firm. It protects the sleeping people on the floor from the wild night. You feel your breath warming the air under your cloak. It stays there, trapped by the wool. You are starting to feel very cozy. The draft is still whistling somewhere in the room, but it is not touching you. You are hidden behind your tapestry and under your heavy cloak. You feel like a king in your own little castle made of fabric. The stone is big and cold, but the wool is soft and kind. It is the best way to survive the night shift. You close your eyes and listen to the soft rustle of the hangings. It is a comforting sound, like the sea hitting a sandy beach. It tells you that the wind is trying to get in, but the fabric is saying no. You let your body sink into the straw. You are no longer worried about the cold. You have built your nest. You have blocked the wind. You let your mind drift away, following the soft movement of the curtains in your imagination. You are safe. You are warm. The fabric is watching over you. You let the quiet rhythm of the swaying tapestries carry you into a deep, dreamless sleep. You lie in the dark, and your eyes no longer try to see. Instead, you let your nose tell you the story of the castle. In our modern world, we often try to make everything smell like nothing at all, or perhaps like a bowl of lemons. But here, the air is thick. It has a weight to it that you can almost taste on your tongue. As you take a slow, deep breath, the first thing you notice is the smoke. It is always there. It is the scent of the castle's life. It smells of oak logs that have turned to white ash, and of the sticky resin from pine torches. It is a dry, grey smell that hangs in the high roof beams, never quite finding its way out of the small holes in the ceiling. Below the smoke, there is a heavier smell that belongs to the stone itself. When stone gets cold and damp, it has a mineral scent, like the smell of a wet pavement after a rainstorm in the autumn. It is a clean, sharp smell that reminds you of the deep earth. Because the castle is built from blocks pulled from a nearby quarry, the walls still smell of the ground. Mixed with this is the scent of the lime used in the whitewash on the walls. It has a slightly dusty, chalky smell that catches in the back of your throat. A simple fact about life in a castle is that people lived very close to one another. There were no showers or baths like we have today. People washed their faces and hands in small basins of cold water, but they did not wash their heavy wool clothes very often. Because of this, the air in the great hall smells strongly of unwashed wool and human presence. It is a warm, salty scent. It is the smell of people who have worked hard all day in the fields or the kitchens. To you, it might seem strong, but to the people living here, it is just the smell of home. It is the scent of being part of a group, and it makes the large, dark room feel a bit less empty. You shift your head on your bolster, and you catch a new scent. It is coming from the floor. You remember the green rushes that were spread out earlier. Now that they have been stepped on all day, they are starting to dry out. They smell like sweet hay and river mud, but there is something else mixed in. This is a microhistory detail that shows how clever people were at making their homes pleasant. Scattered among the rushes are dried flowers and herbs called strewing herbs. You can smell the sharp, clean scent of hyssop and the spicy smell of dried winter savory. These plants were put there to be crushed under your boots. Every time someone moves in their sleep, a tiny bit of perfume is released into the air. It helps hide the heavier smells of the castle and makes the air feel a bit lighter. You lie very still and let the smells drift over you. The air is very still now, and the scents seem to settle into layers. Near the floor it is earthy and herbal. Near your face it is the smell of the scratchy wool cloak and the dusty straw of your bed. Higher up it is the smell of the old wood in the ceiling and the lingering smoke. You realize that you can tell where you are just by the way the air smells. If you were closer to the kitchens, you would smell roasted meat and onions. If you were near the stables, you would smell horses and damp leather. But here in the middle of the castle, the smell is a mix of everything. It is a rich, complicated scent that tells you this building is full of life. You think about the clothes you are wearing. Your tunic is made of linen, which comes from the flax plant. Linen has a very faint, clean smell, like dried grass. It is the layer closest to your skin. Over it, you wear your woolen kirtle. Wool is wonderful because it stays warm even if it gets a little bit damp, but it holds on to smells for a long time. It holds the scent of the last meal you ate and the smoke of every fire you have sat beside. Your clothes are like a diary of your week, written in scents. As the night gets deeper, the smell of the fire changes. The bright, woody scent of burning logs has faded. Now, as the embers sit under the metal curfew, the smell is deeper and more like charcoal. It is a quiet, sleepy smell. It tells you that the day is truly over. You find it very comforting. In a world where the dark can feel dangerous, the smell of a controlled fire is a sign that someone is watching over the hearth. It means there is still a tiny bit of warmth left in the stone. You feel a tiny movement of air, and for a second, the scent of the outside world sneaks in. It is the smell of the cold night of frost on the grass and the damp earth of the fields. It is a very fresh, thin smell. It is like a drink of cold water for your nose. It reminds you that the castle is a shell, protecting you from the wild, dark world outside. The thickness of the stone walls keeps the inside smell in and the outside smell out. You feel lucky to be on the inside, wrapped in the scent of herbs and wood smoke. You breathe in slowly, letting the lavender from your pillow bundle fill your nose. It is a soft purple scent that seems to quiet your mind. It makes you think of bees humming in a garden and the warmth of the summer afternoon. It is strange how a smell can take you to a different place, even though you are lying on a lumpy bag of straw in a freezing castle. The lavender makes you feel like you are lying in the sun. The room is very quiet, and the smells seem to get heavier as people fall into deep sleep. The air is warm from all the breathing. You let your head sink deeper into the bolster. You are no longer noticing the individual scents. They're all blended together into one familiar castle smell. It is the scent of your world. It is the scent of your world. It is the smell of safety and history. You feel your body getting heavier as you breathe in the sleepy, smoky air. You are part of the night now. You are tucked away in the stone, surrounded by the scents of the past. You let out a long, slow breath and let the heavy air carry you down into sleep. You are lying in the dark, and you realize something very quickly. You are not alone. In a medieval castle, privacy is a luxury that almost no one has. Even the walls of the great hall seem to pulse with the sound of other people. As you lie on your straw pallet, you can hear the rhythm of a dozen different lives around you. To your left, someone is breathing deeply and slowly. To your right, someone is turning over, their straw bed making that familiar crackle crunch sound. It is a very crowded way to sleep, but for the people of this time, it is the only way they know. A simple fact about life in a castle is that sleeping together was actually considered safer and warmer. In a world without heaters or electric lights, the heat from another human body was a precious thing. People did not think it was strange to share a bed or sleep in a long row on the floor. It meant that if someone got sick, or if there was a fire, or if an enemy tried to sneak in, there was always someone nearby to help. Being alone in the dark was what people feared the most. To be surrounded by your friends and workmates was a comfort. It meant you were part of a pack, like a family of wolves tucked into a den. You look toward the center of the room. In the dim light from the dying coals, you see the shapes of the other sleepers. They are wrapped in their cloaks, looking like small grey hills on the floor. You notice a microhistory detail that shows how people lived so closely. It is a long wooden board called a sleeping rail. In some rooms, these rails were fixed to the floor to keep the pallets from sliding around. It helped keep the rows of people straight, so that the guards could walk through the room without stepping on anyone's fingers or toes. You can see the dark line of the rail near your feet, worn smooth by years of use. You lie very still and listen to the sounds of the people. The room is filled with a symphony of sleep. You hear a low rumbling snore that sounds like a distant cart crossing a bridge. You hear a soft, muffled cough. Someone whispers a few words in their sleep, a secret dream coming out into the cold air. These sounds would be loud if you were alone, but here they blend together into a steady hum. It is a living silence. It reminds you that the castle is full of people who depend on one another. You feel a strange sense of peace knowing that if you reached out your hand, you would touch the warm wool of a friend's cloak. You notice how people have arranged themselves. The younger men are mostly in the middle, where it is a bit warmer. The older men, who might have lived here their whole lives, have taken the spots near the pillars, where they can lean their backs. Everyone has a place. It is an unwritten rule. You don't just take someone else's spot. You find your corner and you stay there. This order helps everyone feel a little more secure in a world that can often be very chaotic. You think about the clothes everyone is wearing. Most people sleep in their tunics and hose, which are like thick leggings made of wool. They do not undress like we do. Taking off your clothes would mean letting the cold air touch your skin, and no one wants that. So, the room smells of everyone's day. It is the scent of the blacksmith's iron, the cook's onions, and the groom's horses. All these smells mix together under the high roof. It is a human smell. It is the scent of a community that works hard and rests hard. You feel a slight movement near your feet. Someone is shifting their legs, trying to find a more comfortable spot. Their foot accidentally brushes against your cloak. You don't move. You just let it happen. In a castle, you learn to ignore the small bumps and noises of other people. You become part of the collective. Your breathing starts to match the breathing of the person next to you. Without even trying, you're all falling into the same rhythm. It is like the whole room is breathing together as one giant creature. You look up at the high ceiling. You can't see the wood anymore, only the deep velvety blackness. You realize that even though there are many people here, everyone is alone in their own head. Each person is dreaming their own dreams, even while their shoulders are touching. It is a strange thought. You are together, but you are also separate. The castle holds you all in its big stone hands, protecting you from the night. You feel a sense of honor in this shared rest. These are the people who build the walls, cook the food, and guard the gates. They are your community. Sleeping near them makes you feel like you belong to something bigger than yourself. You are not just a watchman, you are a part of the castle's heart. The cold stone doesn't feel quite so cold when you know there is warmth and life all around you. You close your eyes and let the sounds of the other sleepers carry you away. The snores, the rustling straw, and the soft sighs become like the sound of the wind in the trees. It is a natural, healthy sound. You feel your body getting heavier. You are sinking down, past the scratchy wool and the lumpy straw, into a deep, shared sleep. You are safe. You are not alone. The castle is full, and everyone is resting together. You let out a final, slow breath and let the night take you. You lie very still, and you hear a soft, familiar sound. It is a long, heavy sigh, followed by the sound of something thumping against the floor. Thump, thump, thump. It is the tail of a large dog hitting the rushes. In a medieval castle, humans are not the only ones looking for a place to sleep. Animals are everywhere. They are part of the family, and they are part of the mainty. Dogs, especially, are never far from their masters. As you look toward the dim light of the hearth, you see a large, shaggy shape curled up right next to the warm stone. A simple fact about castle life is that animals were very helpful for keeping people warm. Before we had soft blankets or heaters, a big dog was like a living hot water bottle. If you were a guard sleeping in a cold hallway, you would want your dog to lie across your feet. The dog's body is much warmer than a human's, and their thick fur holds that heat in. This is why people often say a 3-dog night when it is very cold. It means you need 3 dogs piled on top of you just to stay warm until the morning. You watch the dog near the fire. It is a mastiff, a giant husband's dog with a broad head and strong legs. These dogs are the castle's first line of defense. Their ears are much sharper than yours. Even when they look like they're in a deep sleep, they are listening. If a stranger's boot clicked on the stone courtyard outside, that dog would be awake in a second. It would let out a low, rumbling growl that would wake everyone in the room. Having animals around makes you feel safer. They are like a living alarm system that never needs to be turned on. You feel a tiny movement near your shoulder. Something small and light is stepping over the edge of your cloak. You stay very still. You feel a soft furry weight settle down right against the back of your neck. It is one of the castle cats. Cats have a very important job in this building. Because there is so much straw on the floors and so much grain in the storage rooms, there are always mice and rats trying to move in. The cats are the hunters of the night. They move like shadows, catching the tiny intruders that would eat the castle's food. This cat is finished with its work for now. It has found the warmest spot. It canned the space between you and the tapestry on the wall. You hear a new sound. Purr, purr, purr. It is a steady, vibrating noise. It feels like a tiny motor running against your skin. This is a microhistory detail that people often forget. Medieval people loved their cats and dogs just as much as we do today. They gave them names and let them sleep on their beds. In the dark, the sound of the cat purring is very relaxing. It tells you that everything is okay. If the cat is relaxed enough to sleep, then you could be relaxed too. You listen to the animals in the dark. The room is full of animal noises if you listen closely. Far away, in the stables that are connected to the main building, you hear a horse let out a loud snort. Then you hear the heavy clop of a hoof hitting a wooden board. The horses are standing in their stalls, sleeping on their feet. Their smell drifts in through the cracks in the walls. It is a scent of hay, leather, and warm fur. It is a strong smell, but it is a healthy one. It reminds you that the castle is full of strength and life. You might even hear the soft rustle of feathers. Some people keep hunting birds, like hawks or falcons, on wooden perches in the corner of the room. These birds have small leather hoods over their eyes to keep them calm in the dark. Every now and then, one of them shifts its weight, and its small brass bells make a tiny silver clink. Tinkle. It is a very delicate sound in such a big, heavy stone room. It sounds like a tiny star falling to the ground. You think about how the animals help the air feel less lonely when you are the only human awake on the watch. The company of a dog or a cat is a great gift. They don't need words to tell you they are there. You can feel their breath and their warmth. You realize that in a castle, the line between human space and animal space is very thin. You all live together under the same roof, protecting each other from the cold and the dark. The cat near your neck shifts its weight. It kneads its paws against your wool cloak, making a tiny scratching sound. Then it curls back into a tight ball. You can feel the heat from its body soaking into your skin. It feels wonderful. The cold draft that was bothering you before doesn't matter as much now. You have a little furry shield protecting you. You feel a sense of honor in being chosen by the cat. It means you're a safe person. The big dog near the fire lets out a little yip in its sleep. Its legs twitch as if it is running. You wonder what a castle dog dreams about. Maybe it is chasing a rabbit through the green fields outside. Maybe it is guarding the gate against a giant. You watch it settle back into a deep sleep. The red glow from the coals catches the brown fur on its back. The dog is a part of the stone and the fire. It belongs here just as much as the lords and ladies do. You close your eyes and let the sounds of the animals blend into the sounds of the humans. The snoring, the purring, and the soft clinking of the bird bells all join together. It is a peaceful, busy silence. You feel your heart beating a little slower, matching the rhythm of the cat's purr. You are sinking down into the straw, feeling very heavy and very warm. The night watch is easier when you have friends with fur and feathers. You let your mind drift away, imagining yourself running through the fields with the dog, under a bright sun that never sets. But for now, the dark is kind. The animals are close. You are safe in the heart of the castle. You are lying very still, almost at the edge of sleep, when you hear it. Plink. Thud. Clink. It is a slow, steady sound coming from the stone hallway outside the hall. It is the sound of metal rubbing against metal and heavy leather boots hitting the ground. This is the night watch. While you and the other workers are tucked into your straw beds, there are men whose job is just beginning. They are the castle guards, the eyes and ears of the building. They walk the long corridors and the high stone paths on top of the walls, making sure the world stays quiet and safe. A simple fact about life in a castle is that the guards have a very strict routine. They move in shifts, which means when one group gets tired and goes to bed, another group wakes up to take their place. This way, there is never a moment, not even for 1 minute, when the castle is not being watched. As the guard passes by the entrance to the great hall, you see the flicker of his torch through the doorway. The light moves across the ceiling like a golden bird, then disappears as he moves further away. The sound of his boots gets softer and softer until it's just a tiny heartbeat in the distance. The guards carry a very specific tool for their night walks. This is a microhistory detail that was very common in these old times. It is called a cresset stone. In some hallways, there are stone blocks with deep holes carved into them. The guards fill these holes with fat or oil and a thick piece of string called a wick. When they light it, the stone holds the flame safely, so it cannot blow out in the wind. You can see one of these stones near the doorway. It gives off a tiny, steady flame that smells a bit like cooking meat. It acts like a little nightlight for the men on patrol. You lie back and listen to the guards. The silence returns after the guard passes, but it feels different now. It feels like a protected silence. You know that high above you, on the battlements, the notched stone walls at the very top of the castle, a man is standing in the cold wind. He is looking out over the dark fields and the black woods. He is looking for the orange glow of an enemy's fire or the movement of a shadow that shouldn't be there. Knowing he is up there, brave and cold, makes your lumpy straw pallet feel much more comfortable. It is easier to let your brain go to sleep when you know someone else is staying awake for you. Every hour, the guards do something called crying the watch. One man will call out a short phrase, like "all is well," or "past midnight and quiet." Then, from another tower far across the courtyard, you will hear a faint voice answer him back. It is like a conversation between the stars. It tells the whole castle that every gate is locked and every wall is standing strong. You hear a voice now, muffled by the thick stone. It is a deep, rough voice. It sounds tired but steady. A moment later, you hear the answer from the high tower. It is a thin, ghostly sound in the wind. It makes you shiver a little bit, but in a good way. It's the sound of safety. The guards also have to be careful about fire. As they walk, they check the hearths and the candles in the hallways. If they see a spark that has jumped out of a cresset, they stomp it out with their heavy boots. They are like the firemen of the night. They also watch the sky for storms. If a big wind comes up, they have to make sure the wooden shutters are tied down tight so they don't bang against the stone and wake up the lord and lady. Their job is to keep the castle peaceful, and they take it very seriously. You think about the armor the guard is wearing. It is not a full suit of shiny plate armor like you see in picture books. That is too heavy and noisy for walking all night. Instead, he probably wears a jack. This is a thick vest made of many layers of linen or leather, sometimes with small pieces of iron sewn inside. It is tough enough to stop a knife, but soft enough that he can move quietly. He also wears a sallet, which is a simple metal helmet that protects his head but lets him see and hear everything around him. His gear is built for work, not for show. You hear the sound of the metal chains at the main gate being checked. Clank clatter. It is a heavy, industrial sound. It reminds you that you are inside a fortress. The castle is a machine built for war, even when it is peaceful. But right now, the machine is at rest. The guards are the ones who keep the parts moving. You feel a sense of honor for these men. They have to stand in the rain and the frost while you are warm under your cloak. They have to keep their eyes open when their eyelids feel like lead. The rhythm of the boots returns. It is a different guard this time. His step is a little quicker, a little lighter. He is walking past the well in the middle of the courtyard. You can hear the echo of his footsteps bouncing off the stone walls of the towers. Echo, echo, echo. It sounds like a ghost following him. You realize that the castle is full of echoes at night. Every tiny sound, a cough, a sigh, a drop of water becomes something bigger when the world is quiet. The guards use these echoes to help them hear if anyone is moving where they shouldn't be. You feel your body getting very heavy. The steady clink thud of the night watch is like a lullaby. It is a rhythm you can trust. It tells you that the night is passing exactly as it should. The hours are being counted. The walls are being walked. The world is being held still by the men in the leather boots. You let out a long breath. and it turns into a tiny cloud of mist in the cold air. You are sinking down past the forts of guards and iron gates into the soft darkness of a deep sleep. You are the watchman of the past, but tonight the guards are watching over you. You are safe. You are protected. The watch is working. You wake up slowly in the dark. It is not a noise or a cold draft that has pulled you from your dreams this time. It is your own body. You've been asleep for a few hours, and now you have a simple human need. You need to use the toilet. In our world, this is as easy as flicking a switch and walking into a bright, warm room with running water. But here, in the middle of a medieval night, it is a much bigger task. You lie still for a moment, hoping the feeling will go away so you don't have to leave the warmth of your wool cloak. But the feeling stays. You realize you have to move. A simple fact about life in a castle is that there are no bathrooms, there are no pipes under the floor, and no taps to turn. If you want to use the garde-robe, which is what they call the toilets built into the castle walls, you have to walk a long way. These toilets are usually small, cold stone closets with a wooden seat. The waste falls down a long shaft into a pit or the castle moat. In the middle of a winter night, walking down a freezing hallway to sit on a stone seat in the wind is the last thing anyone wants to do. So, most people use something much closer to their bed. You reach out your hand into the cold air. You feel around on the stone floor next to your straw pallet. Your fingers touch something cold and smooth. This is a microhistory detail that was found in every room of the castle, from the lowest servant to the king himself. It is a chamber pot. Your pot is made of simple glazed clay, the color of dark honey. It has a wide rim and a sturdy handle. If you were a rich lord, your pot might be made of silver or fine pewter, but yours is just humble earth. It is the most important object in the room right now. You pull your legs out from under your cloak. The cold hits your skin like a slap. You shiver so hard that your teeth make a tiny clicking sound. You move slowly, being very careful. The room is full of other people sleeping on their pallets. You don't want to bump into anyone or make a loud noise. You pull the chamber pot toward you. The bottom of the pot scrapes against the stone floor with a dry, gritty sound. Scrary. You stop and hold your breath, worried that the sound was too loud, but the person next to you just sighs in their sleep and doesn't wake up. You use the pot in the dark. You don't need a candle because you know exactly where everything is. Your hands have learned the shape of your little corner of the castle. As you finish, you feel a sense of relief. You carefully place the wooden lid back onto the pot. The lid is important because it helps keep the smell away while you sleep. In a room with many people, these small pots are being used all through the night. It is just another part of the castle's scent. It is a human smell that everyone is used to. It isn't pleasant, but it is normal. You listen to the sounds of the night. Everything feels much louder when you are awake and everyone else is asleep. You hear the far-off sound of a dog barking once, then stopping. You hear the wind find a tiny hole in the wooden shutter and make a sound like a low whistle. Now that you are out of your bed, you realize how much the fire has died down. The air feels thin and sharp. You can see the white mist of your own breath, even in the dark. It looks like a ghostly ribbon floating in front of your face. You quickly crawl back onto your straw pallet. You pull the heavy wool cloak over your shoulders and tuck your feet in tight. Your body has lost some of its heat, and the bed feels cold for a second. You curl into a ball, hugging your knees. Slowly, the wool starts to do its job again. You feel the warmth returning to your skin. It feels like a miracle. You realize how much you value the simple things: a dry bed, a heavy blanket, and a roof over your head. You think about the gong furners. These are the men whose job it is to clean out the castle's waste pits. They only work at night, while everyone else is sleeping. They use big wooden buckets and shovels to carry the waste away to the fields, where it is used to help the crops grow. It is a very smelly, difficult job, but it is one of the most important jobs in a castle. Without them, the building would become a very unhealthy place to live. You feel a bit of honor for these men. They are part of the night shift too, working in the dark so the castle stays clean for the morning. The chamber pot sits quietly by your bed. In the morning, one of the first things you will do is carry outside to be emptied. It is a morning chore that everyone does. You don't think it is gross or strange. It is just part of the rhythm of the day. But for now, it is just a shape in the shadows. You have done what you needed to do, and your body feels relaxed again. The pressure is gone, and the warmth is coming back to your toes. You hear the guard's boots again in the distance. Clink, thud. he is doing his rounds. You wonder if he ever has to stop and use a pot, or if he just has to wait until his shift is over. Being a guard means you have to be very tough. You have to ignore the cold and your own body's needs for hours at a time. You are glad you were not a guard tonight. You are glad you are back in your nest of straw. You close your eyes. The dark feels softer now. The sounds of the other sleepers, the snores and the rustling fabric start to pull you back towards sleep. You feel your heart beating slowly. The world of the castle is very simple at night. It is about warmth, safety, and waiting for the sun. You let your mind drift away from the chamber pot and the cold floor. You imagine yourself walking in a green field where the air smells of flowers instead of smoke and stone. You let out a long sigh and let your head sink back into the bolster. You are sinking down into a deep, quiet sleep. The night is half over, and you are exactly where you need to be. You have just settled back into your straw pallet, but something is wrong. You are warm, and the room is quiet, but you feel a tiny, tickling sensation on your ankle. You try to ignore it, but then you feel it again on your shoulder. It is a sharp, tiny prick, like a pin hitting your skin. You realize that you are not the only thing living in your bed. In a medieval castle, you are never truly alone. The straw in your mattress and the wool in your cloak are home to thousands of tiny guests. These are fleas and lice. A simple fact about life in a castle is that bugs were a part of every single day. Even the richest lords and the cleanest ladies had to deal with them. Because the floors are covered in straw and people live so close to animals, the bugs move around very easily. They hide in the cracks of the stone walls and in the deep folds of the heavy tapestries. They love the warmth of a human body. To us, it sounds very unpleasant, but to the people of the past, an itch was just as normal as feeling hungry or tired. You learn to live with the small bites as part of the price you pay for staying warm in the straw. You reach down and scratch your ankle. It feels better for a second, but then the itch returns. You try to stay very still. You don't want to move too much because every time you shift, you disturb the straw, and that just wakes up more bugs. You notice a small object hanging from a thin string near your head. This is a microhistory detail that shows how people tried to fight back against the tiny invaders. It is a flea trap. It is a tiny cylinder about the size of your thumb, made of hollow bone or carved wood. Inside, there is a piece of cloth soaked in honey or sticky resin. The fleas are attracted to the smell and get stuck inside the trap instead of biting you. It doesn't catch them all, but it helps. You lie in the dark and focus on the feeling of your skin. The room is very quiet, and you realize how much brain power it takes to ignore an itch. You hear the person next to you scratch their chest in their sleep. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It is a rhythmic sound that everyone makes during the night. You look at the shadows on the wall. You imagine the tiny world that is happening right under your body. In the straw, there are beetles and little spiders that hunt the fleas. It is a whole forest of life inside your mattress. You are a giant mountain to them, and your warmth is their sun. Sometimes people use special plants to keep the bugs away. You remember seeing the women earlier in the week gathering a plant called fleabane. It has small yellow flowers and a very strong bitter smell. They dried it and tapped it into the corners of the pallets. You can smell a bit of it now, a sharp herb-like scent that cuts through the smell of the dust. You also smell wormwood, which is even more bitter. People believe that these strong smells would make the bugs want to leave. You hope it is working. You pull your cloak tighter, hoping the thick wool will act like a shield. You think about how people kept clean. They didn't have soap like we do. Instead, they used lye, which was made from wood ash and water. It was very strong and could hurt your skin if you weren't careful. They used it to wash their linen shirts, which helped kill some of the bugs. But the heavy wool cloaks and the straw beds were much harder to clean. Most people only got a totally fresh bed a few times a year. In between, you just had to be tough. You had to have a strong mind and a thick skin. You feel a tiny movement on your neck. You slowly raise your hand and pinch the spot. You feel something very small between your fingers. Then nothing. You let out a long sigh. It is a constant battle, and tonight the bugs are winning a little bit. But you are too tired to keep fighting. You realize that the itch is just another sound in the castle, like the wind or the guard's boots. If you focus on it, it gets bigger. If you let it go, it fades into the background. You think about the micro-history of the clothes you wear. Your linen shirt is very important because it acts like a filter. It catches the dirt and the bugs before they can get to your skin. That is why people are so proud of having white linen. It shows that they are trying to stay clean in a dusty world. You rub the fabric between your fingers. It feels a bit rough, but it is a solid barrier. It makes you feel a little bit better. The room is very still. The itching starts to quiet down as your body temperature levels out. You are no longer moving, so the bugs are settling down too. You focus on your breathing again. In, out, in, out. In the rhythm helps you forget about the prickles in the straw. You are sinking back into that heavy dark sleep. You are part of the ecosystem of the castle. You are sharing your warmth with the tiny creatures of the night, and in return, the straw keeps you off the cold stone. You let your hand drop back to your side. Your fingers brush the rough stone of the floor. You are glad you are up on the pallet, even with the bugs. The bare floor would be much worse. You close your eyes and let the darkness wrap around you. The tiny itches become like the distant ticking of a clock. They are just part of being alive. You are a watchman, even in your sleep, aware of everything around you, from the giant towers to the smallest flea. You let out one last, long breath and let yourself fall back into the dream world. The castle is quiet, the straw is warm, and the night is moving on. You lie very still, but your mind is not fully asleep. In a medieval castle, even when your eyes are closed, you remain watchful. There is a feeling in the air that is hard to describe. It is a sense that the darkness is not just empty space. To the people of this time, the night is full of meaning. It is a time when the world feels different and the things you cannot see feel very real. You are tucked into your straw bed, but a part of your brain is always listening for a sound that does not belong. You are the watchman of your own safety. The simple fact about life in a castle is that people truly believed the night was a dangerous time. It was not just because of thieves or enemies. They believed that spirits and strange forces moved through the shadows once the sun went down. Because there are no light switches to flick, the darkness is total. When the fire goes out, the great hall becomes a place of deep black pits and strange shapes. The mind starts to play tricks. A cloak hanging on a hook looks like a person standing still. The shadow of a pillar looks like a giant reaching out. You have to be strong in your heart to stay calm in such a big, quiet building. You reach out and touch the heavy wooden post next to your head. You feel a small, cold object tucked into a crack in the wood. This is a micro-history detail that shows how people tried to protect themselves from their fears. It is a small piece of iron, shaped like a nail. People in the Middle Ages believed that iron had a special power to keep away bad spirits and night terrors. They called it cold iron. By keeping a piece of iron near their bed, they felt like they had a shield against the things they could not see. It makes you feel a little bit better, too. The cold, hard metal feels solid and real in a world of shifting shadows. You lie in the dark and listen to the weight of the castle. The silence is so heavy that it almost has a sound of its own. It is a low, humming silence that makes your ears ring. You realize that you are listening for the wrong sound. You know the right sounds, the snoring of the groom, the rustle of the straw, the wind in the chimney. But you're waiting for something else. Perhaps a door creaking in a way it shouldn't, or the sound of a footstep on a stone floor that should be empty. This watchfulness is not scary. It is just a habit. It is how everyone survives in a world where there are no police or phones to call for help. You think about the night shift of the guards high above you. You remember the clink thud of their boots from earlier. Knowing they are up there helps quiet your mind. They are the physical shield of the castle, while your piece of cold iron is your spiritual shield. Between the two, you can find enough peace to rest. You realize that courage is not about not being afraid. It is about knowing the dangers and still choosing to close your eyes. It is about trusting the walls and the men on the watch. You feel the cold air on your face. It is very still. Sometimes the air in the castle moves in strange ways. You might feel a sudden puff of wind that smells like damp earth, even if there is no window nearby. People called these corpse lights or breath of the stones. To us, it is just a draft moving through a hidden passage. But in the dark, it feels like something is walking past you. You pull your wool cloak up over your head, leaving only a tiny hole for your nose. Being inside your own little tent of wool makes the room feel much smaller and safer. You focus on the smell of the room again. The smoke is very faint now, almost gone. The smell of the rushes on the floor is dry and dusty. This is a good smell. It means everything is dry and safe. If you smelled something sharp, like vinegar or wet fur, you would sit up and look around. Your nose is like a second pair of eyes at night. It tells you if the animals are restless. or if someone is moving a torch in the hallway. Everything in the castle has a scent, and your brain knows them all. You think about the stories you heard by the fire earlier, stories of dragons and knights and hidden treasures. In the daylight, those stories seem like fun. At night, they feel much more serious. The castle is so old that it feels like it remembers everything that ever happened here. You imagine the lords and ladies who lived here hundreds of years ago. You wonder if they lay in their beds and listen to the same wind and the same creaking wood. It makes you feel like you are part of a long line of people who have all shared this same dark watch. You feel your heartbeat slowing down. The fear is not a sharp thing anymore. It is just a soft blanket of caution. You are sinking deeper into the straw. The lumps and bumps of the bed feel like they are holding you in place. You are part of the stone. You are part of the shadow. You realize that the darkness is not your enemy. It is just the world resting. The sun will come back and the shadows will turn back into cloaks and pillars. But for now, the night belongs to the watchman. You let your hand fall away from the piece of iron. You don't need to hold it tight anymore. You are tucked in, you are warm, and the castle is standing strong. You let out a long, slow sigh. The mist of your breath is invisible now because there is no light to catch it. You are becoming one with the dark. You are ready to let your mind wander into dreams. You are safe in the heart of the stone beast. The watch is working, and you can finally let go. You lie in the dark, and you realize that your corner is just one tiny part of a much bigger scene. You are in the Great Hall, the largest room in the entire castle. During the day, this place is full of light and noise. This is where the Lord holds his court, where the big feasts are eaten, and where music is played. But at night, the hall turns into a giant bedroom. It is the heart of the castle's community. If you were to sit up and look around, you would see rows and rows of people lying on the floor. It looks like a sea of grey and brown wool cloaks, all rising and falling with the rhythm of sleep. A simple fact about the Great Hall is that it was designed to hold as many people as possible. Because the castle is a fortress, everyone wants to be inside the thick stone walls when the sun goes down. People who work in the fields, the cooks from the kitchen, and even the messengers who have travelled a long way all gather here. There are no private rooms for them. Instead, they share this one big space. It is a very communal way to live. You are never lonely in the Great Hall, even in the middle of the night. You can feel the warmth of dozens of people around you, and it makes the big room feel a little less cold. You look toward the far end of the hall. In the dim light, you can see the shapes of the long wooden tables. They have been pushed against the walls to make space on the floor. Underneath one of the tables, you see a small wooden object. This is a micro-history detail that tells us how people kept things tidy. It is a trestle. In the Middle Ages, tables were not usually permanent pieces of furniture with fixed legs. Instead, they were big flatboards that sat on top of these wooden stands called trestles. At night, the boards were taken down and leaned against the wall so more people could fit their straw pallets on the floor. This shows how the hall had to change its shape twice every day, once for living and once for sleeping. You lie back and listen to the breathing of the hall. The sound of so many people sleeping together is like the sound of the ocean. It is a deep, low rumble that never stops. You hear the soft rustle of someone turning over in their straw. You hear the clack of a dog's nails on the stone floor as it finds a better spot to curl up. This sound is very peaceful. It tells you that you are part of a large family. In a world where life can be very hard, being part of the group is the best way to feel safe. The Great Hall is the shelter that holds you all together. You notice how the light from the moon comes through the high windows. The windows are narrow, but the light is very bright. It hits the floor in long silver stripes. You see the dust motes dancing in the moonlight. They look like tiny sparks of cold fire. The light touches the top of a heavy wooden pillar. You can see the dark grain of the oak wood. This pillar was once a giant tree in a forest many miles away. Now it stands here, holding up the roof while you sleep. It feels very solid and strong. You think about the night shift of the people who work in the hall. Even now, while most people are sleeping, there is a small fire in a brazier near the door. A brazier is a metal basket on legs that holds hot coals. A young boy, a page, is sitting on a stool nearby. His job is to make sure the coals don't go out. He looks very tired. His head is nodding and his chin almost touches his chest. Every few minutes, he wakes up and pokes the coals with a metal rod. The sparks fly up into the air and then vanish. He is the guardian of the warmth for the whole hall. The air in the hall is very still, but it has a life of its own. Because the ceiling is so high, the warm air rises up and the cold air stays down near the floor where you are. To stay warm, many people sit close together in groups. You see a family of three: a man, a woman, and a small child, all tucked under one giant wool cloak. They are like a little island of heat. Sharing warmth is a very practical thing. It is how you survive a winter night in a building with no heaters. You realize that in the castle, being close to other people is not just nice, it is a way to stay alive. You feel the rough texture of the rushes on the floor under your palate. You remember the smell of the herbs that were mixed in. Now, in the deep night, the smell is very faint. It smells like dry grass and old earth. You reach out and touch a single stalk of rye that has fallen out of your palate. It feels thin and brittle. This little stalk of grass was grown in a field, harvested by hand, and brought here just to make your bed a little bit softer. It makes you feel a connection to the land outside the walls. Even inside the stone fortress, you are still connected to the earth. The hall groans. It is the sound of the big wooden beams in the roof settling. Kriak. It is a slow, heavy sound. It reminds you of how much weight is above your head. Thousands of heavy lead tiles cover the roof to keep out the rain. The wood has to be very strong to hold them up. You feel small and protected under such a massive roof. The castle is like a giant stone mother, keeping her children safe from the wind and the rain. You feel a sense of honor in being one of those children. You close your eyes and let the sounds of the hall wash over you, the breathing, the rustling, the soft popping of the coals and the brazier. They all blend into one. You are sinking down into the straw, feeling very heavy and very relaxed. The great hall is a busy place, but right now it is a place of rest. You are just one small part of the big picture. You let out a long, slow sigh. The night is moving on, and the hall is sleeping. You are safe in the heart of the castle. You let your mind drift away, falling into a deep, communal sleep. You leave the great hall behind in your mind and move upward. You follow a winding stone staircase that leads away from the crowds of people sleeping on the floor. This part of the castle feels very different. The air is still cold, but it is not as dusty. There is a sense of quiet here that you do not find in the big halls. You reach a heavy wooden door made of solid oak. It has a beautiful iron lock shaped like a curled leaf. This is a private chamber, the place where the lord and lady of the castle come to rest. A simple fact about life in a castle is that only the most important people have their own rooms. For the rich, sleep is not just about staying warm. It is about having a space of their own. This room is much smaller than the Great Hall, which makes it much easier to keep warm. Instead of hundreds of people sharing the floor, there is only one large piece of furniture in the middle of the room. This is the bed. In the Middle Ages, a bed like this was the most expensive thing in the house. It cost more than a horse or a suit of armor. It was a symbol of power and wealth, built to show everyone how important the person sleeping in it truly was. You look at the bed in the soft moonlight. It is a giant wooden frame with 4 tall posts at each corner. On top of the posts is a wooden roof called a canopy. Hanging from this roof are thick curtains made of expensive velvet or heavy silk. This is a micro-history detail that shows how the rich stayed cozy. These curtains are not just for looking pretty. At night, a servant pulls them tight all the way around the bed. This creates a box of air. The warmth from the people sleeping inside stays trapped, while the cold drafts from the stone walls are kept outside. It is like a tiny soft tent inside a big hard castle. You listen to the quiet of the private room. In this room, the silence feels very deep. You don't hear the snores of dozens of men or the rustling of straw pallets. Instead, you hear the soft tick of a single candle burning on a silver holder. You hear the fabric of the bed curtains move just a tiny bit as the air in the room settles. It is a very peaceful sound. It makes you realize how much the rich valued their quiet time. In a castle full of people shouting and working, this room is like a secret island where the world cannot reach you. You look closer at the bedding. Underneath the heavy silk covers, there is a mattress. But it is not filled with straw like yours. This mattress is filled with the soft white feathers of geese or ducks. This is called a down mattress. When you sit on it, you sink way down into the soft fluff. It feels like floating on a cloud. On top of the feathers are sheets made of fine linen. This linen is very smooth and white, not rough like the cloth in the hall. It feels cool and soft against the skin. Above that are blankets made of the finest wool, and then a heavy coverlet lined with fur. Next to the bed, there is a small wooden step stool. Because the bed is so high off the ground, the Lord needs the store to climb in. This height is also a trick to stay warm, since cold air stays near the floor. Being high up means you are in the warmer air of the room. You see a small table with a silver cup and a piece of white bread. This is a void or a small snack for the night. Even the rich get hungry in the dark. The silver cup catches the light, looking like a little moon sitting on the table. You notice a servant sleeping on a small low bed that slides under the big bed. This is called a truckle bed. Even in their private room, the lord and lady are not truly alone. A servant stays there all night to keep the fire going and to bring water if it is needed. This servant is like a human shield, guarding the door while their masters sleep. It shows that even for the rich, the night still feels a bit uncertain. You always want someone nearby to watch the shadows. There is a fireplace in this room too. It is much smaller than the one in the hall, but it is much closer to the bed. The stones around the fireplace are carved with pictures of knights and flowers. The heat from the coals makes the wood in the room smell sweet and dry. You can smell the scent of beeswax from the expensive candles. It is a much nicer smell than the tallow candles made of fat. It smells like a summer day in a garden. You think about the clothes the lady might wear to bed. Most people sleep in their daytime shirts, but the rich might have a special smock made of very thin, soft linen. It has tiny stitches of gold thread around the neck. They might even wear a silk cap on their head to keep their ears warm. Everything in this room is made to be as soft and kind as possible. It is a world away from the hard stone and the prickly straw of the great hall. You feel a sense of honor just standing in this quiet space. It feels like a place where history's decided. While the castle is asleep, the people in this room are resting so they can lead the soldiers and make the laws tomorrow. Their rest is important for everyone. The heavy curtains hold in the heat, the feathers hold the body, and the stone walls hold the silence. You let out a slow breath. The room is so still that you can almost hear the dust falling. You close your eyes and imagine the heavy velvet curtains being closed. The world disappears. There is only the warmth, the softness, and the quiet. You sink down in your mind, feeling the luxury of the silk and the fur. It is a beautiful way to end the night shift. You realize that whether you sleep on straw or on feathers, the castle is guarding you all. The night is a bridge that everyone has to cross, from the servant on the floor to the king in his golden bed. You let the peace of the private chamber fill you up, and you get ready for the next part of the watch. You are drifting in the quiet of the night when you hear a sound that is different from the deep snores of the men or the rustle of the straw. It is a thin, sharp cry. It is the sound of a baby waking up in the dark. In a medieval castle, children do not sleep in a nursery far away. They are right here, tucked in among the adults. This is a simple fact of life that people today often forget. Families stay close together when the sun goes down, because the night is too cold and too dark for a little one to be alone. You watch as a woman nearby shifts under her heavy wool cloak. She moves gently so she does not wake the person sleeping on the other side of her. She reaches out her arms and pulls a small bundle toward her chest. This is a microhistory detail that looks very strange to us now, but it was how every baby was kept safe in the castle. The baby is wrapped in swaddling bands. These are long strips of linen cloth that are wound around and around the baby's body, from their shoulders down to their toes. It makes the baby look like a little white cocoon or a tiny mummy. People believed that these tight bandages helped the baby's legs grow straight and strong. It also keeps the baby very warm and prevents them from scratching their own face in the dark. Most importantly, it makes the baby feel snug and safe, like they're still being held. The mother holds the small wrapped bundle close to her heart. She begins to make a soft shushing sound. Shh. The great hall is so quiet that the mother's soft voice feels like a warm light in the dark. She begins to hum a very old tune. It is a lullaby that her own mother sang to her, and her grandmother before that. The words are simple, telling the baby about the birds in the forest and the sheep in the fields. She doesn't sing loudly, she just lets the vibration of her voice move through her chest and into the baby's ears. You watch the small bundle settle, the crying stops, replaced by a soft, snuffling sound as the baby finds comfort in the mother's warmth. You think about how hard it is to be a mother in a stone building that never gets warm. She has to be the watchman for her child. All through the night, she listens to the baby's breathing. If the air gets too cold, She pulls more of her cloak over them. If the baby is hungry, she feeds them right there in the dark, sharing her own heat. There are no bottles or heaters here. Everything a child needs comes from the people around them. This closeness builds a very strong bond. A child in a castle grows up knowing the smell of their mother's wool tunic and the sound of her heartbeat more than anything else. You notice a slightly older child, maybe 5 or 6 years old, sleeping nearby. He is not swaddled, but he is tucked tightly between his father and his older brother. He is wearing a small tunic made of rough wool, and he has a little cap on his head to keep his ears warm. In the Middle Ages, children were often called little adults because they dressed just like their parents. This boy probably spent his day helping in the kitchens or running messages across the courtyard. Now he is in a deep, heavy sleep. His mouth is slightly open, and he is dreaming of the big world outside the walls. The mother reaches out a hand and touches the boy's hair. She is making sure he hasn't kicked off his covers. In a winter night, a child can get a chill very quickly if they are not careful. She tucks a bit of stray straw back under his pallet. This small act of care is repeated 1,000 times every night across the castle. It is a quiet kind of love that happens in the shadows. It is what keeps the families going when life is difficult. You think about the night shift of the nursery maids in the richer parts of the castle. For the lady of the castle, there are other women who help watch the children. They have a special tool called a cradle. It is a small wooden box on curved rockers. A microhistory detail about these cradles is that they often had a small iron ring on the side. This was used to tie the cradle to the floor or to a heavy chair. This was done so the cradle wouldn't tip over if the baby moved too much, and also to keep the baby high off the cold, drafty floor. The maid sits by the cradle all night, rocking it with her foot while she sews by the light of a tiny tallow candle. The air in the hall feels a bit softer now. The presence of the children makes the big stone room feel more like a home and less like a fortress. You realize that the castle is not just for soldiers and kings, it is for everyone. It is a place where new life begins and where children grow up listening to the sound of the wind against the battlements. They learn the secrets of the stone from the moment they are born. You see the mother settle back down onto her pallet. She keeps the swaddled baby tucked into the crook of her arm. She is tired, you can see it in the way her shoulders drop, but she is also at peace. Her watch is a quiet one, but it is the most important watch of all. She is protecting the future of the castle. She closes her eyes, and her breathing becomes slow and steady, matching the tiny breaths of the baby. You feel a sense of honor in being near them. It reminds you that even in a world of iron gates and thick walls, the most powerful thing is a mother's care. You let your own head sink back onto your bolster. The cry of the baby is gone, and the hall is quiet again. You are surrounded by the warmth of families, and it makes your own bed feel a little bit better. You are tucked in, you are safe, and the children are sleeping. You let your mind drift away, following the mother's lullaby into your own dreams. The night is long, but the castle is full of love and warmth, and that is enough. The night is moving into its deepest and coldest hours. You lie very still, but you can feel the air changing. It is no longer just a chilly breeze. It is a heavy, biting cold that seems to turn the very air into liquid ice. This is the winter's grip. In a medieval castle, winter is a long battle that never stops. The sun goes down so early that the night feels like it lasts for a lifetime. Outside, the world is covered in a thick blanket of white snow, and the river is frozen solid. Inside, the stone walls are doing something strange. They are pulling the heat out of everything they touch. A simple fact about winter in a castle is that the temperature inside can be almost as cold as the temperature outside. Because the stone is so thick and there is no way to heat the whole building, the air inside stays freezing for months. You look toward the corner of the room, near the thick wall. You see a small wooden bucket that was filled with water earlier in the evening. Now, in the moonlight, you see a glint of something shiny on the top of the water. It is a layer of ice. The water has frozen right there in the room with you. This tells you just how dangerous the night can be. If you were to kick off your cloak in your sleep, you would wake up shivering in seconds. You pull your hands inside your sleeves to keep your fingers warm. You are wearing your thickest clothes. This is a micro-history detail that everyone in the castle knows. Layering is the only way to survive. You are wearing a linen shirt, then a wool tunic, and over that a heavy vest made of sheepskin, with the wool still on the inside. This is called a pillion. It feels thick and a bit stiff, but the sheep's wool is the best thing in the world for holding onto your body heat. Every person in the room is wrapped in as much wool and fur as they own. It makes everyone look twice as big as they really are. You listen to the winter night. The silence of a winter night is different from any other silence. It is a sharp, brittle quiet. You can hear the wood of the ceiling beams making a loud crack sound. This happens because the wood is shrinking in the deep cold. It sounds like a small bone snapping, and it echoes through the hall. You hear the wind howling around the top of the tower. It sounds like a wolf crying out for its pack. But down here, near the floor, the air is perfectly still and perfectly freezing. You try to breathe slowly so the cold air doesn't hurt your throat. You think about the people who have to work on a night like this. You remember the night watch guards on the battlements. They are standing out in the snow, wearing heavy wool hoods and thick leather gloves. They probably have a small charcoal heater, which is a metal box filled with hot coals to keep their hands from turning blue. To them, the castle walls are a shield against the wind, but they are still standing in a world of ice. You feel a deep sense of honor for these men. They are the ones who make sure that while the winter tries to break in, the castle stays strong. You look at the people sleeping near you. They are all curled up into tight balls. This is a survival trick. By tucking your knees up and keeping your arms close, you keep your heart and your stomach warm. You see the mother and her baby from earlier. They are so tucked in that you can only see a tiny bit of the mother's forehead. They are sharing their heat, making a little nest of life in the middle of the frozen stone. In the winter, being close to other people is not just a choice. It is what keeps you alive. A single person sleeping alone would find it much harder to stay warm enough to dream. The straw in your pallet feels cold, too. Even though it is dry, it has soaked up the dampness of the winter air. You can smell the scent of frozen earth and old snow. It is a very clean smell, but it is a lonely one. You miss the smell of the summer herbs and the warmth of the autumn harvest. In the winter, the castle smells only of stone, smoke, and wool. It is a simple, tough world. You have to be tough to live in it. You have to have a mind that is as strong as the stone walls. You feel a tiny bit of frost on the edge of your cloak where your breath has been hitting it. Your own breath is turning into ice right next to your face. You reach out a finger and touch the white crystals. They disappear instantly. It reminds you that you are a source of heat. Your body is like a little stove, burning the pottage you ate for dinner to keep your blood moving. You focus on that, feeling the warmth in your chest and the beat of your heart. You are a small, bright light in a dark, cold place. The fire watchman comes through the hall again. He is wrapped in a giant fur cloak that makes him look like a bear. He checks the curfew over the hearth. He doesn't add any wood because the fire must stay low and safe. But just seeing him move through the shadows makes you feel better. It means someone is still awake. Someone is still tending to the castle's life. He moves quietly, his boots making no sound on the frost-covered rushes. He is a ghost of the winter, watching over the sleepers. You close your eyes and try to imagine the spring. You think about the sun hitting the stone and making it warm to the touch. You think about the green grass growing in the courtyard and the birds coming back to the towers. But that is a long way off. For now, there is only the winter and the watch. You have to get through the next few hours one breath at a time. You pull the sheepskin vest tighter around your ribs. You tuck your chin into the wool. You feel yourself falling back into a deep sleep. It is a heavy winter sleep. It is the kind of sleep where your dreams are very quiet and very still. You are like a seed under the snow, waiting for the world to wake up. The castle is standing firm against the storm. The walls are thick, the gates are shut, and the winter cannot get to your heart. You let out one last breath and watch the tiny cloud of mist vanish into the dark. You are safe. You are warm enough. The watch continues through the ice. The seasons have turned, and the biting frost of winter is now a distant memory. But as you lie on your straw pallet, you realize that the heat of summer brings its own kind of struggle. During the day, the sun beat down on the castle's grey towers for many hours. The stone, which once felt like a block of ice, has soaked up all that golden warmth. Now, in the middle of the night, the walls are breathing that heat back into the room. The air feels thick and heavy, like a warm blanket that you cannot push away. It is a slow, pulsing heat that makes the great hall feel much smaller than it really is. A simple fact about a stone castle in summer is that it acts like a giant oven. Once the stones get hot, they stay hot for a very long time. In the winter, you fought to keep your warmth inside your cloak. Now, you are fighting to let it out. You have pushed your heavy wool cloak to the bottom of the pallet. You are lying in just your thin linen shirt, but even that feels like it is sticking to your skin. The air is so still that not even the smallest breeze comes through the high, narrow windows. You find yourself turning over and over, trying to find a spot on the straw that doesn't feel warm. You reach out and touch the stone floor. This is a micro-history detail that people living in hot castles always remembered. While the walls are warm, the very lowest stones of the floor, the ones that touch the deep, damp earth, are often the only cool places left. You move your arm so your skin touches the bare rock where the rushes have been pushed aside. It feels wonderful. It is a sharp, cool shock that helps quiet your racing heart. For a few minutes, you just stay there, pressed against the cold floor, listening to the silence of the summer night. But the heat is not the only thing that keeps you awake. In the stillness, you hear a tiny, high-pitched sound. Zzz. It is a mosquito circling near your ear. In the summer, the castle is full of life that you do not want. Because the windows are open to catch the air, and because the moat outside is filled with still water, the insects move in. You hear the buzz of a fly hitting the ceiling beams. You feel the tiny crawl of a beetle across the straw. Without screens on the windows or sprays to keep them away, the night shift becomes a battle against the bugs. You spend as much time slapping at the air as you do trying to sleep. You think about the micro-history of the smells in summer. In the winter, everything smelled of smoke and cold stone. Now, the scents are much stronger. You can smell the dry, dusty scent of the rushes. You can smell the salty scent of many people sleeping in one room. Outside, through the opened window, the smell of the forest comes in the scent of green leaves, blooming lime trees, and damp earth. It is a beautiful smell, but it is also heavy. It makes the night feel like it is pressing down on you. You realize that the castle never truly feels empty in the summer. It feels like it is overflowing with life. You look at the other sleepers. They are not curled into tight balls anymore. They are stretched out, arms and legs wide, trying to stay cool. You see the guards by the door. They have taken off their heavy leather jacks and are sitting in just their shirts. They look tired in a different way than they did in the winter. The heat saps your strength. It makes your head feel heavy and your limbs feel like lead. Even the dogs are restless. You hear a large hound let out a long, huffing breath and move to a different part of the stone floor, searching for a cool spot just like you. To help with the heat, some people use a cooling cloth. This is a micro-history detail from the warmer parts of the world that people in castles sometimes copied. It is a piece of linen dipped in cold water from the well. You have a small rag that you have wetted. You lay it across your forehead. The water feels like a miracle. As the air touches the damp cloth, it turns cold, helping to pull the heat out of your head. It only stays cool for a short time, but those few minutes of peace are enough to help you start to drift away. You listen to the sounds of the summer night. Far away, you hear a frog croaking in the moat. Ribbit, ribbit. It is a loud, rhythmic sound that echoes off the stone walls. You hear the hoot of an owl from the high tower. These are the voices of the summer. They are much busier and louder than the quiet sounds of winter. The castle feels like it is part of the forest tonight. The walls are still there, but the doors and windows are open, and the wild world is peeking inside. You think about the farmers who will be waking up in just a few hours. In the summer, the work starts even earlier. They have to get into the fields before the sun gets too high and the heat becomes dangerous. You feel a sense of honor for the people who work the land. Your night watch is almost over, but their day of sweating and lifting is just about to begin. The castle depends on them to fill the storage rooms with grain before the winter returns. You feel your eyelids getting heavy. The damp cloth on your head has become warm now, but you don't mind. The rhythm of the frogs and the soft buzzing of the insects have become a kind of summer lullaby. You are sinking into the straw. The heat is still there and the air is still thick, but your body is finally letting go. You are no longer fighting the night. You are accepting the warmth as part of the cycle of the year. You close your eyes and imagine the cool, dark water of the well deep in the courtyard. You imagine the shade of the big oak trees in the woods. You let your mind go quiet. The summer night is long and restless, but it is also full of life and growth. The castle is standing strong, holding all that warmth inside its stone arms. You let out a slow, shallow breath. You are safe. You are tired. The watch continues through the heat. You lie in the dark, but you find yourself thinking back to how you got here. Sleep does not just happen in a castle. It is something you prepare for with small, quiet habits. These habits are like a map that leads your body from the busy, loud world of the day into the silent world of the night. Every person in the stone building, from the girl who stirs the soup to the knight who guards the door, follows the same patterns. These routines are very old, and they help everyone feel calm. Even when the world outside is full of trouble, the quiet steps you take before bed make you feel like everything is in its right place. The first thing that happens is the slowing down of the light. Earlier, you saw the servants moving around the great hall with a very important tool. This is a micro-history detail that was found in every corner of the castle. It is a horn lantern. It looks like a small metal box with a candle inside, but the sides are not made of glass. Instead, they are made of very thin, flat pieces of cow horn. The horn is scraped until it is so thin that light can shine through it. It gives off a soft yellow glow. The lantern is safe because the flame is tucked away behind the horn, so it cannot catch the straw on the floor. Watching the yellow lanterns move slowly down the hallways is the first sign that the day is over. A simple fact about life in a castle is that the end of the day was always marked by a special sound. This was the ringing of the bell. In many places, this was called the Angelus or the evening bell. When that bell rings out from the high tower, it tells everyone to stop what they are doing. It is a signal to say a quick prayer and to start tidying up. Even if you are in the middle of a job, you put your tools down. You do not work after the bell. It is a time for the soul to get quiet. You remember the sound of that bell from a few hours ago. It was a deep, bronze sound that seemed to shiver through the very stones under your feet. You think about the small things you did to get your body ready. You went to a wooden bench where a basin of water was sitting. The water was cold, pulled fresh from the deep well in the middle of the courtyard. You splashed it on your face and rubbed your hands together. You used a small piece of rough linen cloth to dry your skin. Washing away the dust of the day, the dirt from the fields, and the soot from the fires is a way of telling your body that the work is finished. It makes you feel fresh and clean, even if your clothes are still a bit scratchy. After washing, many people reach for a specific object. You see a man on the pallet next to yours holding a string of wooden beads. This is a paternoster. It is a set of beads used to count prayers. He slides his thumb over each bead one by one in the dark. Click, click, click. It is a very quiet sound, like a beetle moving in the wood. He is not saying the words out loud. He is just thinking them. This is a routine that helps the mind stop worrying about tomorrow. It focuses the heart on being thankful for the day that has passed. You find the rhythm of the clicking beads very soothing. It is like a heartbeat for the room. You listen to the quiet routines of the others. Everything is so still now that you can hear the smallest movements. You hear someone folding their tunic and placing it carefully on top of their boots. They do this every single night by putting your things in the exact same spot. You know you can find them in the dark if there is an emergency. It is a routine of safety. You hear the soft thump of a pillow being fluffed or a bolster being turned. These sounds are like the castle's way of whispering good night. They are the sounds of people taking care of themselves in a world that can be very tough. You think about the night shift of the kitchen workers who stay up just a little bit later than everyone else. Their routine is to damp the fires. They take the big iron pots off the hooks and scrape the bottom of the hearth. They make sure every crumb of food is put away in heavy wooden chests so the rats don't get a feast. Then they wash their hands and find their own pallets near the warmth of the ovens. Their routine is the foundation for everyone's breakfast. Without their quiet work in the dark, the castle would wake up hungry and cold. You feel the weight of your own routine. You have tucked your wool cloak under your feet, just the way you like it. You have placed your spare shirt under your neck to act as a soft cushion. You have checked that your small wooden bowl is empty and safe near your chest. These little acts make this small patch of straw feel like it belongs to you. In a big building full of hundreds of people, having your own routine gives you a sense of honor. It means you are the master of your own little space. You notice how the air in the room has settled. Earlier, the air was full of the smell of dinner and the sound of talking. Now, it is just the smell of dry straw and the sound of breathing. The routine has worked. It has turned a busy, noisy hall into a peaceful forest of sleepers. You realize that humans have been doing these same things for thousands of years. We all need a way to say goodbye to the sun and hello to the moon. You feel your eyes closing. The yellow glow of the horn lanterns is just a memory now. The clicking of the prayer beads has stopped. The washing water in the basin is still and cold. You are part of the quiet. Your body is heavy and your mind is soft. You are no longer thinking about the stairs you climbed or the heavy loads you carried. You are only thinking about the next breath. and the one after that. You let out a long, slow sigh. The routine is complete. You have followed the map, and it has brought you to the land of sleep. You feel very safe and very tucked in. The castle is standing strong, the gates are locked, and the watchman of the fire is doing his rounds. You let yourself sink down into the lumpy straw. It feels as soft as silk now, because you are so tired. You are ready to let the night carry you away. The quiet is your friend. The dark is your home. You let your heart beat slowly and surely, following the deep ancient rhythm of the castle. You wake up in the middle of the night, but it is not because you are scared or cold. Your eyes just open and you feel very calm. This is a very normal thing for you and everyone else in the castle. In our modern world, we think that people should sleep for 8 hours without stopping. But here, in these old stone walls, sleep happens in 2 parts. You have finished your first sleep, and now you are in the quiet space before your second sleep. People call this the waking interval. It is a time for the soul to be still and for the mind to think gentle thoughts while the rest of the world is dark. A simple fact about life in a castle is that the night is very long, especially in the winter. Because the sun goes down so early, people often go to bed at 6 or 7 o'clock. If you slept all the way through, you would wake up long before the sun. So, the body has learned to take a break. You lie there on your straw pallet, and you feel very rested. The hall is still dark, and the air is still cold, but you feel a sense of peace that you never find during the busy, noisy day. This hour of being awake in the middle of the night is a gift. It is a time when no one wants anything from you, and there are no chores to do. You look toward the hearth in the center of the hall. The red glow of the coals is very dim now, sitting quietly under the metal curfew. You see a small wooden object sitting on the floor near a pillar. This is a micro-history detail that shows how people kept track of time even in the dark. It is a sand glass. It looks like 2 glass bulbs, joined together with a narrow neck, held in a wooden frame. The sand inside is very fine, made from crushed shells or white marble. As the sand trickles from the top bulb to the bottom, it measures the passing of the hour. The watchman turns it over every time the sand runs out. You can hear the tiny, soft hiss of the sand moving. It is the only clock you have. You lie in the dark and listen to the breathing of the room. The silence of this waking hour is different from the silence of earlier. It is a soft, friendly quiet. You hear the person next to you move their arm, but they are not waking up. They are just settling deeper into their dreams. You hear a mouse scuttle across the floor, its tiny feet making a patter-patter sound on the dry rushes. In the day, you might chase it away, but now you just let it be. It is a fellow creature of the night, looking for a crumb of bread in the shadows. You feel a sense of honor in sharing the room with all these quiet lives. This is the time when many people do their deepest thinking. Without the light of the sun to distract you, your mind can wander to far-off places. You think about your family in the village down the hill. You think about the harvest that is coming, or the stories you heard from a traveler. Some people use this hour to talk softly to each other. You hear a whisper from across the hall, 2 friends, sharing a secret, or a husband and wife, planning for their children. Their voices are so low that they sound like the wind in the grass. It is a time for intimacy and for strengthening the bonds of the community. You notice how your body feels. The first sleep has taken away the heavy ache in your muscles from carrying wood and water. You feel light and relaxed. Your skin is warm under your wool cloak, but the air on your face is fresh and cool. You realize that you are very lucky to have this time. In the daylight, life is about doing. In this waking interval, life is about being. You are just a human being resting in a giant stone house, part of a long history that stretches back for hundreds of years. You think about the night shift of the monks in the chapel nearby. While you are resting on your straw, they are waking up to sing their prayers. This is called matins. You can hear the faint sound of their voices drifting through the thick stone walls. It is a low, chanting sound, like the humming of bees. They believe that by praying in the middle of the night, they are keeping the world safe while everyone else sleeps. Their music is like a thread of gold running through the dark fabric of the night. It makes you feel protected and cared for. You reach out and touch the fabric of your cloak. You can feel the individual threads of the wool. This cloak has been with you for a long time. It has seen the rain and the sun, and now it is holding your warmth in the dark. You feel a sense of gratitude for the simple things that keep you safe. The wool, the straw, the stone, they are your friends. They are the things that make it possible for you to live in this tough, beautiful world. You feel a new wave of tiredness coming over you. It is a different kind of sleepiness than before. The first sleep was about resting your body, but this second sleep will be about resting your spirit. Your eyelids feel heavy again, and your mind starts to turn into soft, blurry shapes. The hiss of the sand glass and the humming of the monks start to blend together into a single peaceful sound. You are ready to let go of the waking world again. You turn onto your side and tuck your hand under your cheek. The straw pallet feels softer than it did before, as if it has grown accustomed to your weight. You pull the edge of the cloak up over your ear. You are sinking down, back into the dark velvet asleep. The waking interval is over, and the rest of the night is waiting for you. You feel very tucked in and very safe. The castle is standing strong, the sand is trickling, and the watchman is on the walls. You let out a long, slow sigh, and let the second sleep take you into its arms. You are exactly where you belong. You have fallen back into your second sleep, and now your mind begins to wander. In the deep quiet of the castle, dreams feel very different. They're not just random thoughts. To the people of this time, they are like another world you visit when your eyes are closed. Your mind is filled with the stories you have heard since you were a small child. These are tales of brave knights in shining mail, of hidden treasures buried under the stone floors, and of strange creatures that live in the deep woods beyond the castle gates. As you lie in your straw pallet, these stories turn into pictures in your head, moving slowly like the shadows on the wall. A simple fact about life in a castle is that stories were the only entertainment people had. There were no books for most people to read, and certainly no screens to watch. Instead, people sat around the hearth in the evenings and told old wives' tales. They talked about the green man who guards the forest, or the hidden folk who live in the hills. When you go to sleep, these stories stay with you. You might dream that you are walking through a forest where the trees are made of silver, or that you have found a secret door in the tower that leads to a room full of gold. Your dreams are as big and as exciting as the castle itself. You see a specific image in your dream. It is a legendary animal that every person in the castle knows from the tapestries on the walls. This is a micro-history detail that was very popular in medieval art. It is the unicorn. In your dream, you see a beautiful white horse with a single twisted horn on its forehead. People believed that unicorns were real, and that they were the purest creatures in the world. They thought that a unicorn's horn could clean any water it touched. Seeing one in your dream is considered a very good sign. It means that your heart is quiet and that the night is kind to you. You lie in the dark and let your mind drift through the old tales. The silence of the room is the perfect place for these stories to grow. You hear the wood of the castle groan, and in your dream, that sound becomes the voice of the building itself. You imagine that the stone walls are telling you about all the kings and queens there see. You see the faces of people from long ago, dressed in bright silk and velvet, dancing in the hall where you now sleep. The castle is like a giant book made of rock, and tonight you are reading the pages with your heart. It makes you feel very proud to live in a place with so much history. You think about the night shift of the storytellers. These were the minstrels men who travelled from castle to castle with harps and lutes. They sang long poems called chansons de gesta, which are songs about great deeds. You can almost hear the faint sound of a harp in your mind. The music is soft and silver, matching the moonlight on the floor. These songs weren't just for fun. They taught people about honor and being brave. Even while you sleep, those lessons stay with you. You dream of being a protector of the gates, standing tall against the darkness. You notice how your dreams are filled with the things you touch every day. You dream of the heavy iron keys the steward carries, clinking together like tiny bells. You dream of the smell of the baking bread from the kitchens, warm and sweet. But in your dream, the bread is as big as a shield, and the keys can open doors to the stars. This is how the mind works in the Middle Ages. It takes the simple things, the wood, the wool, the stone, and turns them into magic. It makes your hard life feel like a grand adventure. Sometimes the dreams can be a little bit frightening. You might dream of a dark shadow moving through the hallway, or a great storm that shakes the towers. But even these nightmare dreams have a purpose. They remind you to stay watchful and to trust your friends. When you wake up for a second and see the familiar shape of the pillar or the glow of the embers, the fear vanishes. You realize that you are safe inside the fortress. The stories are just a mind's way of processing the world. You feel a sense of honor in sharing these dreams with the people around you. Every person sleeping in the Great Hall tonight is carrying their own stories. The cook is dreaming of a feast for a king. The groom is dreaming of a horse that can run faster than the wind. Together you are all building a world of imagination that is just as strong as the stone walls. This shared dreaming is what makes the castle feel like a living thing. It is not just a building, it is a collection of thousands of stories. The air in the room is very still. The rhythm of your breathing is slow and steady. You are sinking deeper into the second sleep, where the dreams are the most vivid. You are no longer aware of the lumpy straw or the cold draught. You are flying over the battlements, looking down at the castle in the moonlight. You see the towers, the courtyard, and the dark woods beyond. Everything looks peaceful and silver. You feel a great sense of peace. You are part of the legend of this place. You let your mind go soft. The unicorn fades into a forest of green leaves. The sound of the harp turns into the sound of the wind. You are becoming part of the story yourself. You are the watchman who dreams, the protector who rests. The castle is your anchor, and the stories are your sails. You let out a long, slow sigh. The night is full of magic, and you are right in the middle of it. You let yourself fall into a deep, happy sleep, guided by the ancient tales of the stone. You are resting in the deep part of the second sleep when a sound breaks through. It is not a loud noise, but it is sharp. Hack, hack, cough. It comes from a few pallets away. Then another person answers with a low, wet wheeze. In a medieval castle, the night is rarely silent for long because illness lives in the stone. The damp air and the freezing walls are hard on the lungs. For many people, winter is one long season of coughing and sneezing. As you lie there, you hear the sound of someone sitting up, their straw bed making a tired, rustling noise. A simple fact about life in a castle is that being sick at night was very difficult. There were no bright pharmacies to visit and no pills to swallow to make a fever go away. Instead, people had to rely on what they could make from plants and what they could keep near their beds. Because the Great Hall is so large and full of people, a cough can wake up 10 others in just a few seconds. But no one gets angry. Everyone knows that tomorrow it could be them. There is a quiet kind of kindness in the dark. People offer a bit of water or a spare cloth to those who are struggling to breathe. You see a woman near the hearth move toward a small wooden cupboard. She's holding a special object that is very important for the sick. This is a microhistory detail that was found in every castle kitchen. It is a posset pot. It is a ceramic jar with a lid and a tiny spout sticking out of the side, almost like a teapot. Inside is a posset, which is a drink made of hot milk curdled with ale or wine and mixed with honey and spices like ginger or cinnamon. The spices help to warm the chest and the honey soothes the scratchy throat. The sick person can sip the warm drink through the spout without even having to sit all the way up. The smell of the warm ginger drifts across the room, smelling like a spicy, sweet cloud in the cold air. You lie in the dark and listen to the sounds of the sick. The room feels very heavy when people are unwell. You hear the laboured breathing of an old man in the corner. His breath sounds like the wind blowing through dry leaves. Whistle, rattle, sigh. It is a reminder of how fragile life can be in this big stone fortress, even with the thickest walls and the strongest gates. You cannot keep out the chills and the agues, which is what people call fevers and shakes. In this moment of quiet, you realize that the most important thing in the castle is not the swords or the gold, but the health of the people who live inside. You think about the night shift of the castle's healer or the wise woman. Earlier in the day, she was busy in her small room, crushing dried herbs with a heavy stone bowl called a mortar and pestle. She made poultices, which are warm, wet bundles of herbs like mustard or onion to lay on people's chests to help them breathe. At night, those poultices smell very strong, like a sharp, stinging garden. You can smell a bit of it now. It is a medicinal scent that tells you someone is being cared for. It makes you feel safe to know that there are people who know the secrets of the plants. You notice how the caregivers move in the dark. A mother is wiping her child's forehead with a damp cloth. A friend is holding a cup of water for someone whose voice has gone raspy. They move with a very slow, gentle rhythm. They don't want to wake the whole hall, so they do everything in near silence. This quiet care is one of the most beautiful things about the night. It is a reminder that even when things are tough, people look out for one another. You feel a sense of honor in being part of a group that values care as much as strength. You think about the micro-history of the water we drink. The water in the castle comes from a deep well that goes far down into the rock. It is very cold and very pure. People believe that living water from the earth can wash away a fever. Near your own palate, you have a small leather bottle called a costrel. It is shaped like a little flat donut, so it can be carried on a belt. You take a small sip of the water. It is so cold, it makes your teeth ache, but it feels wonderful in your throat. It reminds you of the deep, quiet earth beneath the castle. The coughing starts to settle down as the warm posset drink begins to work. The room returns to its steady hum of snoring and breathing. You feel your own chest rise and fall. You are lucky to be healthy tonight. You send a quiet thought of thanks to the stone walls for keeping the wind out, and to the fire watchman for keeping a tiny bit of warmth in the air. In a world with no machines to help you, your own body is your most precious tool. You have to treat it with respect. You feel your eyelids getting heavy again. The sharp sound of the cough is now just a memory. The smell of the ginger and the herbs is fading into the smell of the straw. You are sinking back into the velvet darkness. You realize that the castle is not just a place for fighting or feasting. It is a place for healing and for resting. The stone is a protector of the body as much as it is a protector of the land. You let your mind go soft. The rattle of the breathing turns into the sound of the wind in the trees. The spicy scent of the posset turns into the smell of a summer field. You are drifting away, back to the second sleep. You are safe in your nest of straw. The watchman is on the walls, the healer is in her room, and the sick are finally finding a moment of peace. You let out a long, slow sigh and let the night take you back into its arms. The castle is quiet and the watch continues. You are resting in the deep part of the second sleep when you hear a sound that never truly stops. It is the sound of the people who make the castle rung while you are tucked into your warm pallet. There are others whose night is not for dreaming. These are the servants who work the night shift in the shadows. Their rest is light and their eyes are always half open. They are like the invisible hands that keep the stone beast breathing. As you lie there, you hear a soft scuff of a shoe and the faint clink of a bucket handle. These are the sounds of the people who never truly sleep. A simple fact about life in a castle is that someone must always be awake to serve the building. If the fire goes out, the castle grows cold. If the water barrels are empty, the morning will be a disaster. If the gates are not checked, the castle is not a fortress. For the servants, the night is divided into tasks. They do not get to curl up for 8 hours. Instead, they catch dog sleep, which is what people call a very short, light nap wherever they can. You might see a kitchen boy sleeping on a wooden bench for 20 minutes before he has to wake up and stir the giant pot of porridge for the morning. You see a young man moving toward the big water butt in the courtyard. He is carrying 2 heavy wooden buckets on a yoke across his shoulders. This is a microhistory detail that shows the hard work of the night. The yoke is a curved piece of wood that fits over his neck, allowing him to carry a lot of weight without using his hands. He walks with a slow, swinging step so the water does not splash out. The buckets are made of oak staves held together with iron hoops. In the quiet of the night, the sound of the water sloshing splosh, glog, splosh is very loud. He is the one who makes sure the cooks have enough water to start the day. You lie in the dark and listen to the work of the night. The silence is filled with the small, busy noises of the servants. You hear the rhythmic scrape, scrape, scrape of a broom made of birch twigs. Someone is cleaning the rushes near the door, making sure the path is clear for the guards. You hear the soft thud of a heavy sack of flour being moved in the pantry. These sounds are comforting because they mean the castle is prepared. It is like the ticking of a clock. As long as you hear the servants moving, you know the world is still turning as it should. You think about the night shift of the laundry maids. In the middle of the night, they are often in the wash house, leaning over large wooden tubs. They use a tool called a dolly, which is a wooden stick with legs at the bottom, to stir the heavy, wet clothes. Washing clothes in a castle is very hard work. The water must be heated over a fire, and the soap is made from ash and fat. The steam fills the small room, smelling like wet wool and wood smoke. They work through the dark so that the linen sheets for the Lord's bed will be dry and fresh by tomorrow evening. You notice how the servants move with a specific kind of quietness. They have learned to walk on the balls of their feet so they do not wake the sleepers. They use the shadows to hide their movements. It is a humble kind of honor to work so hard while no one is watching. They are the ones who see the castle at its most private. They see the Lord when he is tired, and the children when they are crying. They know every crack in the stone and every squeak in the floor. They are the memory of the building. The air in the hall feels a bit more active now. You realize that the night is not just a time for rest, it is a time for preparation. The work being done now is what allows the daytime to be successful. Without the water carrier, the fire watcher, and the laundry maid, the castle would fall into chaos. You feel a sense of gratitude for these people. They are your friends and your teammates. Their tiredness is the price they pay for your safety and comfort. It makes you want to be a better watchman in return. You see the fire watchman again. He is sitting on a small stool near the hearth, his head resting against his hand. He is taking his dog sleep. He looks very small and lonely in the big dark room. But you know that if a single spark jumped onto the floor, his eyes would snap open in a second. His body is trained to respond to danger even when he is resting. This kind of life makes you very tough. It makes your senses sharp and your mind quick. You admire the strength it takes to live in the in-between of sleep and work. You feel your own body getting heavier. The sounds of the buckets and the brooms are becoming like a background hum. You are sinking back into the straw. The night is almost over, and the servants are already starting the work of the tomorrow. You realize that the castle is never truly at rest. It is a living, breathing thing made of stone and people. The servants are the blood that flows through its veins, keeping everything alive in the dark. You close your eyes and let the sounds of the night work carry you away. The sloshing water and the scraping broom turn into the sound of a small river in your mind. You are drifting toward the very end of the night. You are safe. You are tucked in. The castle is ready for the sun. You let out a long, slow sigh and let the last of the darkness hold you. The watch is almost done, and the morning is waiting behind the hills. You let your heart beat in time with the quiet steps of the servants, feeling at peace with the busy, silent world. You are lying in the deepest, quietest part of the night, but something is changing. It is not a sound you can name, and it is not a light you can see with your eyes yet. It is a feeling in the very air of the castle. The darkness, which felt thick and heavy like a wool blanket for so many hours, is starting to feel thin. The air in the great hall is moving just a tiny bit more than it was before. This is the time when the night starts to pull away from the stone. In the world of the night shift, this is the most important moment. It is the sign that the long watch is almost over. A simple fact about life in a castle is that the building wakes up long before the sun actually shows its face. Because there are no clocks to ring or alarms to buzz, people follow the rhythm of the air and the animals. You hear a sound from far away, outside the thick stone walls. It is a faint, lonely cry. Cock-a-doodle-doo, it is the first rooster in the village below the hill. Soon another one answers from the castle stables. Then another. These birds are the first watchmen of the morning. They can sense the tiny bit of light that is still hidden behind the edge of the world. Hearing them makes your heart feel a little lighter. It means the dark is losing its power. You look up toward the high narrow window in the wall. It is still black, but it is not the deep velvety black of midnight. It is a dark smoky grey. You see a tiny dot of light sitting just above the horizon. This is a micro-history detail that every person in the Middle Ages looked for. It is the morning star. To us, it is the planet Venus. But to the people in the castle, it is a herald and messenger that says the sun is coming. Seeing the bright, steady spark in the grey sky is like seeing a friend's face after a long journey. It tells you that you have made it through the cold and the dark. You lie in the dark and feel the castle start to breathe again. The silence is being broken by the small sounds of the morning. You hear a guard high above on the battlements let out a long, noisy yawn. He is stretching his tired arms and legs, feeling the cold wind one last time before his shift ends. You hear the heavy iron bolt of the kitchen door being slid back. Clack-shink. This is a very important sound. It means the heart of the castle is opening. Soon, the smell of wood smoke will get stronger as the cooks wake up the big ovens. The castle is like a giant that is slowly stretching its limbs and opening its eyes. You notice that the other sleepers are starting to change too. The deep, heavy snoring is turning into soft sighs and restless movements. Someone pulls their arm out from under their cloak and rubs their face. The air is still very cold, perhaps the coldest it has been all night. But the feeling of the room is different. It is no longer a room of dreams. It is becoming a room of work again. You feel a sense of honor in being awake to see this. You've watched the castle through its most private hours, and now you're watching it put on its daytime face. You think about the micro-history of the light. In a few minutes, a servant will come through the hall with a taper. This is a long, thin candle made of twisted flax soaked in wax. He will use it to light the cressets on the walls and the small lamps in the hallways. This first light of the morning is always very beautiful. It is not bright and harsh. It is soft and flickering. It catches the dust in the air and the edges of the stone pillars. It makes the great hall look like it is made of gold and shadow. You watch for the first yellow spark to appear in the doorway. The smell of the room is shifting. The stale, heavy scent of many people sleeping is being washed away by a fresh draught of air from the courtyard. You can smell the damp earth and the frost on the grass. It is a sharp, clean scent that wakes up your brain. You realize how much you have missed the outside world during the long hours of the watch. The castle walls are great protectors, but they can also feel like a prison in the dark. Now, the gates are about to open, and the world is becoming wide and bright again. You feel the straw under your body. It feels very flat and tired now. It has held your weight all night, and it has done a good job. You reach down and touch the rough fabric of your pallet. You feel a sense of gratitude for this simple bed. It kept you off the cold stone and gave you a place to dream. In a few hours the servants will come to fluff the straw and tidy the rushes, but for now, the bed is a record of your night. Every lump and bump tells the story of how you turned and shifted in the dark. You hear a new sound from the courtyard. Plink, plink, clink. It is the sound of the blacksmith's hammer hitting the anvil. He is one of the earliest workers to start. He needs to get his forge hot while the air is still cool. The rhythmic ringing of the metal is like a bell calling the castle to wake up. It is a strong, industrial sound that means the work of the day is beginning. You feel your own muscles starting to wake up. The stiffness in your legs is fading as your blood starts to move faster. You see a faint line of blue appearing at the top of the window slit. It is a very pale, watery blue, like a robin's egg. This is the first true light of the day. It is not enough to see by yet, but it changes the shadows. The corners of the room are no longer pitch black. They are deep purple. You can see the shapes of the wooden beams in the ceiling. You can see the outlines of the people sleeping near you. The mystery of the night is disappearing, replaced by the reality of the morning. You let out a long, slow breath. The watch is almost over. You have guarded the fire, you have listened to the guards, and you have shared the silence with the stone. You feel a deep sense of peace. You have survived another night in the heart of the past. The morning is not a surprise, it is a reward for your patience. You are ready to stand up, to shake off the straw, and to step into the light. But for just one more minute, you stay still, enjoying the quiet beauty of the world before the sun arrives. The watch is almost ended, and the day is at the door. You are lying still, but you know the time for rest has come to an end. The castle is no longer a dark, silent fortress. It is waking up with 100 small noises that grow louder every minute. The pale, watery blue at the window has turned into a soft, glowing grey, and now a tiny sliver of gold touches the very top of the high stone archway. This is the first kiss of the sun. It is the sign that the night shift is over, and the day has officially begun. You feel the heavy weight of the night lifting off your shoulders. The stone walls, which seemed so tall and mysterious in the dark, now look solid and friendly in the morning light. A simple fact about life in a castle is that the morning transition is very fast. Once the first bit of sun hits the towers, the quiet disappears. You hear the heavy wooden doors of the great hall swing open with a loud echoing thud. A rush of fresh, cold morning air flows across the floor, blowing away the stale smell of the night. You see people all around you starting to sit up. They are shaking off their wool cloaks and rubbing their eyes. The hall, which was a sea of sleeping hills just an hour ago, is now full of people stretching and yawning. The communal sleep is over, and everyone is becoming an individual worker once again. You reach for your heavy leather boots. This is a micro-history detail that everyone who lives in a castle knows well. In the winter, your boots are often stiff and cold in the morning. To make them easier to put on, you rub a little bit of dubbin into the leather. Dubbin is a thick grease made from animal fat and wax. It keeps the leather soft and stops the morning dew from soaking into your feet. As you pull your boots on and tie the leather laces, you feel the familiar grip of the world returning. You are no longer a dreamer, you are a man with a job to do. You stand up and stretch your arms high above your head. Your joints make a small pop sound, and you feel the blood rushing back into your fingers. You look at your straw pallet. It looks flat and tired, but you feel a sense of honor for the rest it gave you. You take your wool cloak and shake it out. A few bits of yellow straw fly into the air and dance in a beam of sunlight. You fold the cloak carefully and place it on your wooden chest. The ritual of the morning is just as important as the ritual of the night. It is how you tell yourself that you are ready for whatever the day brings. You listen to the castle in the full light of morning. The silence is completely gone now. You hear the loud clanking sound of the portcullis being raised at the main gate. The heavy iron chains are rattling and the wooden winches are groaning as the guards pull the gate up. This is the sound of the castle opening its heart to the world. You hear the shouting of the grooms in the courtyard as they lead the horses out to the water trough. You hear the clatter of wooden buckets and the splashing of water. The world outside the walls is pouring in merchants with their carts, farmers with their grain, and messengers with news from far away. You walk toward the hearth. The curfew has been removed, and the fire watchman is adding fresh logs to the red coals. A small flame licks the wood, then grows into a bright, cheerful fire. The warmth feels different. Now it is not a secret, shared warmth, but a bright, public heat. You see the page who was nodding on his stool earlier. He is now busy sweeping the ashes. Everyone has a task. You see the mother from the night. She's standing near the light, unwrapping the linen bands from her baby to wash him. The baby is kicking his tiny legs in the air, happy to be free of his cocoon. You think about the night shift you have just completed. You have seen the castle at its coldest and its quietest. You have heard the breathing of the stone and the whispers of the wind. You have shared the dark with the guards and the servants. This knowledge makes you feel like you belong to the building in a special way. While the people coming in through the gates see only a big stone fortress, you know the secrets of the straw and the shadows. You have been the watchman of the past, and you have done your duty well. The air is now full of the smell of breakfast. The cooks are carrying large wooden trays of dark bread and bowls of hot porridge seasoned with salt. You feel a sharp pang of hunger in your stomach. The work of the day will be hard carrying stones, cleaning stables, or walking the walls, but you have the strength for it because you rested. The castle provides for you, and in return, you provide for the castle. It is a cycle that has repeated for hundreds of years, and it will continue long after you have left this stone room. You take one last look at your corner. The tapestry of the forest and the white deer looks bright and colourful in the sun. The tiny white deer seems to be watching you, its stitched eyes sparkling. You feel a sense of peace. The night fears are gone, the itches are forgotten, and the cold has been pushed back into the corners. You are part of the living, breathing history of this place. You are a link in a long chain of people who have called this castle home. The sun is rising higher now, and the beams of light are hitting the floor like golden paths. You take a deep breath of the fresh morning air. It tastes of wood smoke and pine trees. You are ready. You turn away from your bed and walk toward the large wooden doors. Your boots click on the stone, sounding strong and sure. The watch is over, but the life of the castle is just beginning. You step out into the bright courtyard, feeling the sun on your face and the wind in your hair. The sun is rising. The gates are opening. The watch is ended.